Hey guys, welcome to Box Office Addict, my weekly podcast live scream, not live scream. Live scream! Ah! Scream, or the Michael Jackson song Scream, which that song kicks ass on an album that's very disappointing history. But anyway, not to go on a random thing there about Michael. Box Office Addict is a weekly live stream, as I said, where I break down the weekend numbers. I talk about expectations versus reality. We look at the marketing costs. We look at the budgets. We compare week to week. And, you know, there's kind of a narrative here. We've been doing this 36 weeks, so if you follow every episode, you'll see how each film kind of came and went, and it takes us on this journey of not only seeing where Hollywood's at currently, because the money counts more so than the artistic merit, unfortunately, in the immediate sense, not in the long term necessarily. And we also get a view, though, of the future of Hollywood, where things are going, because you need to follow the money, and that's really the key here. But we also talk about movies. I answer questions in the chat, and go back and forth with people, fun stuff like that. Basically, it's a radio show with the box office being the main focus, and everything else is just kind of whatever random thing people want to talk about, but it's usually movie related. But if this is your first time to listen to Box Office Addict, I hope you like the show. And if you are listening, you're probably a Box Office Addict yourself, and that's a pretty cool thing. So this is a very fun weekend to talk about because Black Panther isn't the #1 movie finally after like 6 weeks. So there's actually something new to say and to discuss, and I'm actually surprised how things went this weekend. The chat was not blowing up. Usually people are here earlier. There we go. Yeah, I was wondering where it's at. Woohoo, time for one of my favorite streams. Hey, Pat. Hello, Robert. So why'd they make a second Pacific Rim again? Well, surprisingly, it did pretty well this weekend. So I'm actually kind of shocked. I mean, it didn't do great, but there's a context, but we'll get to that when we actually get to the movie. But it performed way above my expectations. Hello, Bathory, of course, always my moderator and my sidekick, if you will. The great Bathory, who is, like, I guess a genius or something. Who knows? For all I know, she's some dude that lives in Florida, down somewhere in Florida, lives somewhere in a little apartment, and she sits there all day with, she's got one of those beer hats that has the tubes on the sides where you're just drinking beer, and she's just getting drunk and typing and being like, I'm going to say whatever I want. It's amazing. They all think I'm a girl. It's really clever, actually. I would suggest more people do that. Well, you still have anonymity before Mark Wahlberg. Mark Zuckerberg, a different Berg. Before Mark Zuckerberg takes your soul, which he is taking from all of you and all of us through social media, you can at least pretend to be the opposite sex for a while. But truly, if gender is just on a spectrum, if sexuality and all that is really all on a spectrum, if you feel like Um, if you feel like you want to be a male or female in a chat, it doesn't matter. You can be whatever you want to be. The internet and reality have become one. We can all be what we want to be now. It doesn't have to be reality anymore. So I am now officially thin Roger Ebert. I am a thin, better-looking Roger Ebert. Because I can decide that, damn it. I don't know what he was. He was either a man or some female hybrid creature. He was a very feminine, odd-looking gentleman. He was kind of like Pat, the SNL character. No relation. And I'm not really sure what Ebert was. Sometimes I wonder if his genitalia was some freakish hybrid between things. But, I'm not trying to go too deep with that, obviously. Phrasing. Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, I believe he wrote the script to that movie. So, how have you guys been doing this week? I've been catching up on Fassbender films. Not Fassbender the actor, Fassbender, but Fassbender the director. And Criterion actually has released a lot of his stuff. I don't know if they released everything, but they have a collection of his stuff. I'd seen anything of his that I had access to, but I'm kind of studying it, if you will, because if you're somebody who learns, if you're a film buff, just like if you like music, you got to keep kind of going back and going through things. But my father, his doctor, is this very old Japanese man named Dr. Deng. And he looks like an old samurai master. He looks like Mr. Miyagi or something, but like more lanky. But he's like 85 years old. So we go to the hospital to meet him, and he taps me on the shoulder, and he says, "I don't want to do an Asian stereotype voice, but I guess I'll have to do it for the sake of it. Freddy Fassbender." But he goes, "What do you study?" And I go, "What do I study?" I go, "I don't study anything. I'm not in school." He goes, "What do you study?" And I go, "I guess movies, film." He goes, "Always study. Always study. That's the problem with these doctors. They don't study. They don't read the new paper. Because a lot of doctors, they get their degree, and then years down the road, they don't stay updated with the new research and the things that are being released. It's also for a lot of scientists. If you're good at this, you should always." But he meant in general, you do it everything. And this was a long time ago, but it kind of opened me up. I was like, man, he's right. So sometimes when I go a few months or a few weeks without watching something, I made some pretty good, some tasty burgers. But I for the most part, I didn't. I kind of just didn't focus on movies for a little bit there, even though they're my real passion and love, because I used to watch several a day. But then there was a couple weeks there I watched like 25 of them, and I'm kind of more reading books right now. But I'm like, no, I need to just do what I do with a lot of authors. You just read their books. So I'm going through a bunch of directors right now. So I'm starting with Fassbender, and then I'm going to jump around to some other German stuff. I basically want to watch more German films again. Because I really like German cinema, particularly the 70s and 80s era German cinema. So I really want to get back into that. I've seen everything Herzog, but I wanted to watch some stuff that I haven't seen in a long time. After that, I'll probably branch out into some more French, even though I've seen a lot of that, and Italian, and go back through my Fellini kick and all that. Fellini, it's funny, you think that stuff's gonna age. You think that, because I know some people who think Fellini's a little dry. They feel this disconnect from him as a filmmaker. They think there's kind of a coldness, which I don't get it. I could get that if somebody said that about Bergman, even though I don't totally feel that way. But there's some Bergman films I feel. But Fellini on the other hand, I think his films are so full of life. It just comes off the screen. They're so wonderful and fantastical. La Dolce Vita is so romantic and sensual and about men and women and disillusionment and what inspires you and what also haunts you and holds you back in a sense. And then 8.5 is like the ultimate creative expression and showing you of what people do when they make stuff, is that they how much they put themselves into it, and you make something out of nothing. You make chaos into something that has a structure and a theme and an idea, several ideas really, but you make them all one idea basically through the visuals and the cutting and all that. And I Amarcord and all that. I want to kind of go back through. So even though I've seen this film several times, but right now it's German cinema. gonna move on to. I also need to watch more. I think Spanish movies. I think I'm kind of lacking in that department. I think I think I'm lacking in a lot of certain parts of the world, certain demographics. I'm definitely lacking in the amount of films I've seen, and not just a general knowledge or some trivia question. I actually want to get in and dig deep and find out. Also, if I would recommend Child of the Flower, let me give you a good recommendation. There's this director, maybe you've heard of him. His name is Milos Forman. He directed Amadeus, which is very famous, obviously, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He actually won 2 Best Director Oscars. It's kind of forgotten. Recently, he did The People vs. Larry Flint and Man on the Moon. But he has an early film, I believe in the early 70s. Criterion did release it. It's called Loves of a Blonde, or Many Loves of a Blonde. I can't remember the title particularly, but it's Loves of a Blonde. Amazing movie. Amazing. One of the best films ever made. Incredibly underrated, incredibly overlooked, and powerful. He's one of my favorite directors, but I think it's called Loves of a Blonde, and it's not too hard to find, but it's totally worth getting into, and I would recommend starting there a little bit. And if you want to find something that's a little bit like obscure-ish, that would be a nice, and then kind of go down those pathways. Watch stuff like Five Easy Pieces. Or if you want to get, I don't know, I guess it depends on what decade you want to get into and what kind of film you want to get into. But I would say watch some early 70s, late 60s stuff, get into the Midnight Cowboys and that era, and then you can go into some, go a little earlier and go into the new wave. And I think it's better to start somewhere in the mid part of film than start at the beginning or the end. But that's just my opinion. Some people think you should go silent era, watch the classic Hollywood era, and then then you go through the 60s, and then you go through the new wave of cinema, the new Hollywood through the 60s, 70s. Then you have the corporate, they call it the corporate decade, basically, the 80s. But I actually think the 80s has so many great films. I think that's a ridiculous criticism, actually. And then you get a modernity, which would be modernism, really, in cinema in the last, postmodernism in particular, really taking over film, even in the mainstream. So I think that you need to pick whatever decade, but I would suggest you start somewhere kind of in the middle. The 70s is a great place to start, and then you can either go back or forward from there and kind of find what you're into, because it's some people don't like certain movies from decades. I'm certainly not a fan of the 60s. The early, mid-60s, I think, is a horrible decade for movies. I like the James Bond movies and some other stuff, obviously West Side Story, but most of the movies I think are very mediocre. It wasn't until like the late 60s things started to really improve. But my favorite decade's still the 70s. I really think the 80s is overlooked by a lot of film buffs or that aren't just like people who love Gremlins, but stuff like Paris, Texas, and Blue Velvet came out that decade. Amazing films. Almodovar. Yeah, Pedro Almodovar. I think that's how you say his name. Yeah, I love his work. I haven't seen all of his films. I've seen most of them. I was talking to Blood Money about this. I think he was telling me about the movie Tie Me Up. Where some chicks just tied to a bed by Antonio Banderas, and it sounded great because I've seen a lot of his films. I saw The Skin I Live In, obviously, and My Mother, Everything You Know About Mother, and a lot of his modern stuff all there. Bad Influence, I think, with what's his name? The guy from the Cuarón movie, the Alfonso Cuarón movie. Because he's not Diego Luna, he's the other one. Bernal Garcia Hall, Gabriel. God, I can't believe I can't think of his name. He was in Almost Perros. Great actor. That movie, Bad Influence, I really liked that. Or was it Bad Taste? No, Bad Taste, Bad Influence, I think. Great movie. Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, yeah. Yeah, Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down. I haven't seen that movie, but it was highly recommended to me, and it sounds pretty good. But everything I've seen of his I really like, but that's kind of an earlier film of his. But The Skin I Live In's great. The Skin I Live In was actually one of his better movies, I think, in its later career. I think it actually has a lot better structure and plotting than a lot of his other films. Do you like The Warriors? Of course I like The Warriors. Walter Hill, man, one of my all-time favorite movies. 1979 classic. Not the director's cuts where they add the comic book panels. I'm talking the old school grittiness that was so perfect. You know what's amazing about The Warriors? Unlike so many comic book films, which try to not be comic book films, they take themselves very seriously. There's almost a pretension that comes with it. And I mean, this is true for so many comic book films. It's a director that doesn't want to embrace the pulp. He doesn't want to embrace the camp. He doesn't want to lean on what a panel can do. And The Warriors, unlike so many other films that try to capture the mythic nature of gods and what's in superhero stories, what's incredible is the Warriors doesn't do any of that. It just is. It just exists. It's stripped down to just its form, and it's really formalism at its best, but it's stripped down to where it's silly. They're wearing these costumes. You know, they're wearing these vests, and everyone else is in costumes, the baseball Furies, and there's a chick's lips looking like a comic book panel, totally talking into the radio, telling the Warriors, like giving us the narration as it goes on. The dialogue's very like over the top. It has a big presence, but it's also kind of witty and works. It's smart while also being just populist enough. But the Warriors, yeah, it just doesn't have any. It's not ashamed to be what it is. Of course, I know who Jodorowsky is, dude. Come on, Noel. Noel, don't be so basic. Yes, it's like me asking, you know who Kubrick is, Noel? Jesus, but the Warriors just it doesn't care that if you have to take this serious or not. It just exists to tell the classic story that's always been told. It's the good versus evil. It's the mighty having to rise up, and it's 300. It's the Spartans fighting. There's that element to it, but it's great. It's such a manly film too. It's got these balls to it that I absolutely love. And the Warriors, though, like I said, most comic book films don't get this, or most genre films even don't get this, especially in the modern day. Is you can just get away with it with craft. With craftsmanship and with an understanding of what you're doing. If you actually embrace the pulp, if you actually embrace the over the top, and if you actually embrace the Western elements, if you embrace the B-movie elements of like that, yeah, great. Can you dig it? It's awesome. Even that the opening scene, how it's cut where they're on the train and they're going to the event and they're all talking, and you get every character's personality is established within the first 5 minutes of the movie. You know who Ajax is. You know who everyone is. El Topo is a masterpiece. I agree. It's his best movie. I actually like El Topo much more than Holy Mountain. Even though I like Holy Mountain, I think El Topo is a much better film, and people give way too much to Holy Mountain. More credit than El Topo, which El Topo I think is amazing. One of the greatest achievements. But the Warriors doing Can You Dig It, man? Like, it's kind of, you can see where Tarantino gets a little bit of that. That's why Pulp Fiction's so great, is that it does a lot of these things for different kind of genres. It kind of has this just like lived in Truffaut almost, new wave aspect to it, which Scorsese does as well, this energy. But what Walter Hill does with the Warriors, man, that opening scene, 5 minutes, you get who the characters are. Then as soon as you get there, of course I love Old Boy. Old Boy's amazing. After you get to that, you get the setup of the plot. Movie immediately, in less than 10 minutes, the movie is already going, and you know where it's at. It's a chase picture. There's momentum. It's forward momentum. Characters keep thinking forward. They keep going ahead. Things are subtly revealed to you. Everyone's an enemy. Everyone's out to get you. You're going through this. It feels like John Carpenter stuff. It's a little bit of Assault on Precinct 13. But great movie. And what a perfect ending. Perfect ending to, I won't spoil it, some characters die. The chicks are packed, man. But if you haven't seen The Warriors, you're missing out on one of the coolest films ever made. Just one of the coolest films ever made. It's pure... there's not an ounce of cynicism in it. It's pure cinema, and it's one of Walter Hill's best films, if not his best film. I think The Warriors has aged like fine wine. The effects are very practical, and it was so long ago, we don't really remember what gangs were like. No, it has aged well. Time has only been kind to it. It's not a time capsule product of the 70s. It transcends the 70s and just becomes a high piece of pop art in itself. And that's what's so terrific about The Warriors. And, I'll always come out and play with that movie, because that movie is the shit. Yeah, Oldboy's really good. The Sardonicast, the Sardonicast, they got to go to that Phantom Thread dick sucking, man. I can't wait to do my real discussions where we talk about Phantom Thread because I have a lot of things to say, even though I won't go completely in there, but I don't get this just PTA's God, everything's perfect. Warriors is amazing though. Does Portugal have a movie scene worth checking out? I don't know about currently, but I have seen some films from there that are good. I'm not sure about the current state. Did you enjoy Old Boy? Sorry, is Punisher Warzone any good? I would say yes. I actually think Punisher Warzone's very good. It's very very good. I don't know why I'm talking about this stuff so much. Let me actually get to the box office. As someone said last week, you actually talked about the box office for once, and I wasn't here. Damn it. For a box office show, I never stay on topic. Shape of Water from Guillermo del Toro, the wonderful filmmaker who made Pan's Labyrinth and Hellboy 2: The Golden Army, and Pacific Rim, oddly enough, which is going to be the box office addict film of the week. Well, Pacific Rim 2, or Uprising, even though that opening weekend in Rise Up, but $63 million domestic, $185 million worldwide. Well, this is just great. This film cost $20 million. Sure, they spent a lot on marketing and distributing it, but that Best Picture win really solidified this. This will be his most successful film, I'd say. Probably even profit-wise, this has to be his most profitable film. When you just look at the budget and how much it's made worldwide. It could reach $200 million. It's now past 3 billboards worldwide and domestically. So overall, this is just a very successful film. Good job on Fox Searchlight's part. And if Guillermo can keep that 20-30 million range, he'll have more hits. Hopefully something like this will happen to Peter Jackson if he can make a film that's more low-budget fairy tale-esque. Another Heavenly Creatures, if you will. Because if you look at Del Toro, Crimson Peak was a major bomb, critical disappointment. Pacific Rim, while making a little bit of money worldwide, cost a lot and didn't really make an impact domestically. And this film, it performed better than Pan's Labyrinth, even though adjusted for ticket price inflation. Pan's Labyrinth did make $50 million. And even Mimic would be $50 million. So he's had some success. Blade 2, probably his most successful movie, I guess, really. But overall, when you think about this won Best Picture and all that. I would talk about this movie a little bit more, but I'm saving it for the podcast. It's going to be episode 2 of Real Discussions whenever we get to recording it. I haven't heard from Blood Money in a few days. I'm assuming he's busy. He was dealing with some legal matter. It wasn't like anything. It's his job. He was doing something with his job. So I don't know what he was doing, but I think he's very busy handling something. So we were going to record this week, but I didn't hear from him. That was really what happened. So whenever I get in touch with him, we'll try to record that Phantom Thread episode. Then we're going to talk about The Shape of Water and then the Safdie Brothers' Good Time, which is a movie that a lot of you know I'm a fan of. And then the 4th episode is going to be our 20 favorite films of the 80s list. Yeah, I love your mispronunciation of his name. No, his name's, yeah, I always say it that way, yeah. I guess it's like F it. When is podcast? I don't know, whenever me and Blood Money can get together, it's called Real Discussions, but whenever it happens, I really don't know. But we're definitely, the thing with the show is we're not allowed to talk about the movies that we've seen. It's going to be the first time we've talked about them. Unfortunately, we had a bust with our Phantom Thread one because we recorded it and then the audio got messed up. But basically, neither one of us discussed Phantom Thread. Neither one of us have discussed Shape of Water together or Good Time. We've sort of talked about them, but we haven't done, and I didn't do a review for any of those movies. So that's another thing. It's kind of like a debut of a review and me having a discussion with somebody. But yeah, Del Toro, man, that's really successful for him. I mean, I can't think of anything really wrong with how this went financially and critically and everything. Shape of Water ended up. I thought the film would do well and be a success for him, but this is huge. Please post live stream schedule somewhere in your About section. It's really, unfortunately, there's not much of a schedule, so that would be tough to do, but I'll try to. I kind of do it at different times every week. How is Kylo? Does Rey still peep on him whenever he takes his shirt off? I don't know. I gotta get the Kylo Show episode 3 out, though. I'm sorry about that taking so long. That's I've been trying to set up moving. I was just in the city with my girlfriend a couple days ago, and we were looking for apartments or houses or something like that. We were looking at townhouses, and we were in different neighborhoods, and I'm kind of a little burnt out from it, but um, we've been doing that, so I haven't had time. That's why I haven't been making a lot of videos. I did get the Black Panther review out. I do plan on doing a review of Alex Garland's Annihilation. Because the Black Panther review, the blackety black as hell. I'm sorry I'm not doing more reviews. I should do a Tomb Raider review. I should do more stuff like that. But I do plan on, yeah, there's going to be an Annihilation review. I'm not really sure what to structure and title it yet, but I do have a lot of opinions on that movie. I'm also thinking about doing a video on his first film, Ex Machina. Not his first film as a writer, but as a director. Because I've always had this breakdown of that movie that I find to be very entertaining about beta males and the evil of women and the feminization of men and taking over the world. So I've been wanting to I might do a video on that and talk about that movie, because I love that movie. I think Ex Machina is terrific. Not as big of a fan of Annihilation, but I won't go into that until the review, and I'll try to talk about it. Hey Pat, considering that you didn't like Pacific Rim, why do you think it'll take to make a good mecha movie? Better characterization, better plotting, just more wit and cleverness, and because really my issue isn't the action scenes in giant robot mech movies. Most of them look pretty good. Loved Annihilation. All my friends hated it though. Can you live stream? I might live stream that, do a live review. I only did a live review for Death Note on Netflix. I just watched the movie, and I was recording my review while I watched it, and then I cut it down to like 25 minutes, and I thought it came out pretty funny. But since I've seen Annihilation, I can't really do that, but maybe I could rewatch it and do a live review. I could maybe watch it online or something. It's going to be on Netflix, I think, so I guess I could watch it online and just talk through it, but I'll have to write stuff down, because usually I have notes and stuff, and it's going to be tough for me to have notes and be live streaming about. Are you planning on making reviews of movies worth being watched? Yes, I'm sorry. I want to do more underrated classics, and I want to do more my favorite films, but I've been having a rough time getting stuff done, basically. I've just been having a rough time with it. But I really do regret not doing more underrated classics. I should, and I should talk about more international cinema, foreign films, and more, I don't want to say obscure, but more esoteric works, more, like Come and See. The director of that only made that one movie, but I would like to make videos talking about those films, because I think they're really wonderful. It's kind of like how the reputation of some books really makes some films overshadowed. I think George Roy Hill's Slaughterhouse-5 adaptation is actually terrific. It's just you can't think of it like the book. You just have to watch it as its own little movie, and it's really a gem of its decade. I'll do a Gundam Wing live. I've been thinking about starting a Wonder Years podcast. I know that there's already some of them out there. I found like 4 or 5, not really on YouTube. But basically, there's 115 episodes of the Wonder Years, and it's my favorite show of all time. And I've seen every episode dozens of times. So I have all of these. It really is. There isn't. Well, I don't think people like to watch it. That's why I think it's not discussed much on YouTube. I wonder that too. Why there's no international cinema. Very little, and I think it's just because people don't click on it. I think a lot of people who watch YouTube videos, and just America in general, aren't that interested in it as a subject. So there's not really a market for it. Because I don't see anyone talk about that stuff. I mean, like I said, some people do. YT, you mean RT? I don't know what. What the hell was I talking about? But Gundam Wing, and then the Wonder Years podcast, I'm thinking about calling it Kevin Arnold's Basement. And because Kevin Arnold used to hang out in his basement with his friends. But basically, I would be talking about each episode. It would be like the, what's that tossed salad and scrambled eggs, that Frasier podcast Kevin Smith has. It would be me. I talk about I would give you an introduction, then I would narrate over the episode of the Wonder Years that I'm watching, and then I would wrap it up with my kind of my analysis, final view of it, and it would be Gundam Thunderbolt. I haven't seen Gundam Thunderbolt. Jesus, and okay, I guess. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Sorry, that one isn't. Fred Savage, yeah. Great Fred Savage. But we call Kevin Arnold's Basement, and it's my favorite show ever. It's 100, so it'd be 115 episodes of the podcast. And the show's about 22 minutes, so each episode would be just 30 to 40 minutes long. I like live reviews just for your discussions with your followers. I just saw Death of Stalin. I think you'd like it. Reminds me of an Edgar Wright movie. Yeah, that's the guy who made In the Loop and the show Veep. I am German. Do you know any good German movies except those from Herzog and Fassbender? Me neither. I mean, they're the two in a lot of ways they're two of the Godfathers. I mean, they're the ones to go to. I'm also German. I mean, I'm not German in the sense I'm from Germany. I'm an American, but my background is German. Maybe I'll make a video on that. Maybe I'll make a video series for each country. I'll say this is my German films, and I'll bring up other German directors that I know about in other German films, and then I'll do one on France and Italy. Maybe that can be a series in itself. When me and Blood Money came up with the 20 favorite films of the 80s list, we had rules. You can only put one film from a director, and then you can't put any foreign films. So that made the list a lot easier, because if we had just listed like 20, I mean, it would have been insane. It would have been impossible. How do you not put Wings of Desire on there? But luckily we were able to avoid those issues. So it's just going to be American films. And we both said, oh, can we do 45? And then we're like, God, if it's 45, we're going to have the same damn list. So when you make it 20, then you got to cut stuff. Then you got to start thinking, oh, God, am I going to put Raiders on here? And how can I not put Raiders on there? One hypothetical good mecha movie I've been picturing is perhaps a giant robot movie. Oh yeah, like Gigantor, like Iron Giant type stuff, very 50s-esque by Brad Bird. I agree. I could see that working. I think that would be an interesting way to go. Kind of like Sky Captain, but good. Yes, I've seen that movie. Yes, Hard to Be God. Uwe Boll. Yes, Uwe Boll. Yes, Douglas Sirk. Yeah, Sirk's, sure. Have you seen Terraformers? I have not seen Terraformers, but thank you for telling me about it. I'll try to look it up. Shit. Oh, I shouldn't have swore like that. Mexican cinema. I mean, what I've seen of Mexican movies, I really like them. I mean, most of the stuff we end up seeing is the good stuff. We don't usually... I always bring that up to people, when you see a lot of movies from a decade or from a foreign... you're only seeing the stuff that really makes it that's great. You're not seeing all the mediocre stuff, because you're like, oh, there's so many bad American movies. Well, there could be bad movies everywhere. You're just not getting exposed to them. And I think people kind of lose track of that sometimes. If you're only watching the 5 best shows on TV, you would think TV's pretty great. But if you watch everything, you would see that a lot of stuff sucks. If you're only reading, the classics and literature, you would think, well, books are great. But if you started reading some crappy book, that's... Perspective's very useful in understanding how to kind of make a narrative, a line for yourself to go on, to create some serendipitous way of getting somewhere. That all these, you can control your life to have randomness lead you to places you want if you know what you like. I feel like if you trust your instincts and you can educate yourself and kind of channel, you'll find the things that you like, because you're not going to like everything. You might be able to take a little bit from everything, but the stuff that really, gets you going, gets you high, gets you turned on, gets you liking gets you digging stuff. You know what I'm talking about, it's just what it is. Like, some things get you hard, some things get you a softy, and some things just leave you there flat, and that's, and just like, trying to find sexual identity or financial security, I think your artistic or just success, fulfillment, happiness, filling the inner void, you can channel that and find pathways that lead you to the kind of books and movies you like. But to do so, you have to have perspective. You have to take in almost everything and things that you're not comfortable with, so that you can appreciate the stuff that is unique to your taste and helping you develop an even better taste that you can better articulate to express how you feel about things and what you're trying to get at. Because that's really the hardest thing about any kind of art or expression, is you have to articulate to several people complex feelings, not even just complex thoughts, feelings, and you have to try to simplify them to where they make sense to people in a very direct way. And that's harder than people think it is. It's easy to manipulate people's emotions and craft things with cameras or with tricks, turn of phrase, and all that stuff. The mise en scene, finding the essence of things and good blocking. But really, to get across the emotional substance takes a different kind of level of work to really feel like you're inside the head of the person. I saw an interesting piece of advice which I really agree with from I think it was Robert Downey Sr., Downey Jr.'s father. Is a very good director. He gave advice which whenever I write, I kind of figured this out young, but he said he figured out late in life. He said when you write a script, always think your main character is moving forward. They're not sitting. They're running. And he doesn't mean like physically, but like mentally or whatever's happening in the scene. That doesn't mean everything else, like all the side characters have to do that or even the plot. But see, what happens all the time when you write a script, you kind of get writer's block because you start just writing and you're feeling it, and then the story basically writes itself and the script writes itself at the point when you get in a groove. But a lot of people have a hard time getting in the groove and just starting a script. And I used to not be able to write anything. Now I can sit down and write a script in a few weeks and crank it out. It's usually only like 80, 90 pages, but I've written at least 3 in the last year that were, pretty lengthy. And I wrote them quickly. And I was starting to figure that out a while ago, but he's so right about that. That's big advice I would give to you, any young filmmaker out there, aspiring writer even. I don't know if it necessarily transfers to literature as much, but with screenwriting, your character has to be thinking moving forward. There has to be agency, which is incredibly important. Like the script I'm working on now, even though the character sits around a lot, he's behind a counter a lot, or he's just talking to people and having conversations, he has a goal. He's trying to get somewhere. And if you know those goals, if you know those destinations that your character needs to go to, okay, they're trying to achieve this, the thing writes itself. Think about, let's use Marty McFly as an example, all right? So let's say Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis are writing Back to the Future. The key there to keep that kind of, because what's so great, Back to the Future, now there's so many things, but that pacing, right? It moves really well. There was a forward momentum, because really you get to know George and his mother. I can't believe I can't think of her name. It's Leah Thompson, but I can't think of Lorraine. And you get to know them really more as people, and they're the characters that you get that more have development and go through something, less so than Marty. Marty really doesn't learn and change that much. He gets a little bit of perspective, but really in general, Marty's a pretty cool guy. He's a pretty well-defined, good dude, I think, from the beginning. But he always has a goal. What's his goal? He has to get back to the future. It's even in the title. So you have this script that's got all these wonderful jokes and ideas and existential things, because it plays with cause and effect. It reverses cause and effect, if anything. But the playfulness is all there, and it's enjoyable and entertaining. But Marty has goals. He knows he has to get his dad, so he has to get the tape and play him the tape so he can get his dad to help him to meet his mom, because if he doesn't meet his mom, then Marty's not going to be born. He's going through this constantly. Am I going to be born? Oh, great, I have to take my mom to this dance. I don't want to, but I have to do this, so I have a plan where George is going to come. Marty always has goals. He always has something to do. So if they're writing that script, they know in his head Marty's thinking of things he has to do. And then everything, the extension of that, Biff, George, all that, they just tie into what Marty's trying to do. Oh, Marty's trying to do this. Well, let's write the scene built around that. But Marty's the anchor. He's the thing. And I think that's a great piece of advice when you're writing a script. What you're describing is action only in terms of dramatic tension. I recommend Alexander McKendrick's work for a comprehensive read on it. Yeah, well, it's not just dramatic tension. It's for your writing. When you're writing, a lot of people get hung up. But if you're thinking about what your character's doing, this writing can come from that. That's kind of what the advice was, so you can finish a screenplay and get to the places you want to get to the third act, trying to dig through, because then you can keep rewriting it, but you have the structure and the outline, really. But if you're knowing where your character's going, what their goal is, it's easier for you to get to that point and fill in the gaps in between, instead of just trying to do it all and figure out, where it's going. You should kind of have a general idea. At least with your protagonist, not necessarily with everything else. 50 Shades Freed, $300,000 this weekend. Finally crossed $100 million, $367 million worldwide on a $55 million budget from James Foley, the director of Glengarry Glen Ross. The Greatest Showman finally crossed 400 million. Great total here. 407 million, 170 million. Now is past Chicago, I believe, to become the highest grossing musical, unadjusted for ticket price. And obviously Sound of Music. But modern musical, and obviously Chicago made a lot more money if you look at ticket prices. But still, $84 million. This film had a terrific multiplier. It's coming to the end of its run, but it is going to have a Broadway opening soon. So here it is. Once again, only a very minor drop. This has been one of the greatest multiplier runs I've seen in the last few years. And this is a terrific crowd pleaser from Hugh Jackman when it comes to just being successful. It wasn't critically loved. Wasn't some great work of art, but it hit the demographic it was aiming for. And it also shows that the musical perhaps possibly never really died. It's just Hollywood gave up on it. But the people who didn't give up on it, and coming from the momentum of La La Land, stuff like Beauty and the Beast, I would say full force, and especially even before that, with the High School Musical series, the musical is back. And it's been back. So I don't want to hear the next time they make a musical because they always do direct like, it's a risk to make this a new music. And I'm like, okay, you guys keep saying this, but then they keep making money. So how long until it's not a risk? Les Mis made a lot of money. Like how many have to bomb? I know some bomb, like that movie 9, by Rob Marshall, that like crappy, like I'm gonna try to be Bob Fosse piece of crap and Fellini. I'm gonna do 8.5 with a bit of all that jazz. But yeah, really weird freaking movie. Don't like him as a director though. We'll skip Jumanji. It's pretty much done. Annihilation is at 31 million. Honestly, Annihilation really didn't do that bad for how weird of a film it is, for how ambiguous of a film it is, for how it's just not that commercial of a movie at all. $40 million budget. You could say Paramount kind of fumbled the release, but I don't think this was ever going to be a hit movie. It's too weird. Even the people who like it, I think like this kind of stuff. I think there's a mixed debate on this movie. I think between even the art house community, if you will, what you want to call it. But seriously though, that $11 million opening week, it's not terrible. It didn't make its money back, obviously, it's budget and marketing, but if this does end up on Netflix, which it's supposed to, and people watch it on there, overall, this isn't like a total disaster. I know there wasn't an international release. They released it on Netflix internationally, but maybe you have to credit Natalie Portman here a little bit, who I think is terrific in the movie, by the way. That's the one thing, one of my real big positives is her performance. I kind of forgot how great of an actress Natalie Portman was. It kind of made me mad, like, oh yeah, right, yeah, all the beautiful girls and even Black Swan, but I kind of forgot, like, yeah, Natalie Portman's really good. I always think she's overrated and sucks because I think about her in Thor or these other movies, or I'm like, oh, V for Vendetta, she could have been better. And then I forget when she's good in something, she's like an amazing actress. She has this great way of like just swinging between emotions and doing really, I don't want to say it's vulnerable. I don't think it is. It's almost this, she has this dignity to her femininity that's very interesting that I like a lot. This almost stoic, statuesque presence that she almost has. But there is emotion, but it's like she won't fully let you in. Even though she does do that cry face and the yelling, but I don't know, even how she smiles and talks, I really like Natalie Portman. I think she's a very Natalie Portman is my Jewish space queen. Yeah, maybe it is the Jewish thing. Who knows? She's terrific though. I'm never gonna knock Natalie Portman, even though she's been in movies I don't like her in. I think she's great. When she's great, she's really good. But anyway, yeah, God, Garden State, what an annoying character. Oh my god, that's one of the most annoying characters ever written. F you, Zach Braff. I gotta do a video on that once, my disillusionment with Garden State, where I just break down how much I love that movie, and then now I watch it, I can't even stand it, despite a good soundtrack and Peter Sarsgaard, But I gotta say, Annihilation, I don't think it's doing that bad. All things considered, that's not that bad. The Death of Stalin, 1 million this weekend, made 2 million in 140 theaters. Not doing bad. Very critically acclaimed film. Could get a couple of Oscar nominations. Death Wish, starring Bruce Willis, $32 million, $30 million budget from Eli Roth. Not making a lot of money. I don't know if it's been released internationally yet, but no way they've made a lot of profit off that. Strangers Pray at Night. I know I skipped over Isle of Dogs. I'll go back to it. $22 million domestically. Don't know what the budget is, but I imagine the studio wanted more than that. That's not a very great total. Isle of Dogs from the great Wes Anderson. This is his second stop-motion feature after Fantastic Mr. Fox. He's on a crazy win streak right now of critical acclaim. Let's look at this. Moonrise Kingdom comes out, has 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. He gets the screenplay nomination. Big comeback movie for him. It's his most profitable film since Royal Tenenbaums. Fantastic Mr. Fox, 94-95% on Rotten Tomatoes. He gets the nomination for Best Animated Feature. Follow that up. He does, is that after he does he do, yeah, then he does Grand Budapest Hotel, his best reviewed film. 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, but the average rating like 8.5, 88 on Metacritic. Film wins 4 Academy Awards. He's nominated for director, screenplay. Wes Anderson has like 6 Oscar noms now. Now he comes out with Isle of Dogs, 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, 81 on Metacritic. Most likely is a lock for Best Animated Feature nomination. Possibly could even win, if we're being fair, if a Disney film doesn't really break in there. So he's going to get another Oscar nomination. All of his recent films have had over 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, I really like Life Aquatic a lot now, and Darjeeling Limited, but but he's really right now on a streak that I would only say like maybe David Fincher was on or Tarantino was on for a little bit, but really Wes Anderson, at least critically, and Grand Budapest Hotel. Let's remember this. This film made a lot of money. This is his first really big hit. Grand Budapest Hotel with the terrific Ralph Fiennes and a wonderful performance. $25 million budget, made $174 million worldwide. That was a hit. I mean, honestly, I'm shocked it didn't win Best Picture. I know Birdman won, but there was kind of this feeling. I thought Grand Budapest kind of felt like it was the one that should have kind of got the love. I know a lot of people thought Boyhood was going to be the one that was going to win that year, but you saw Black Swan again last week, and Portman was good, but really noticed the supporting cast more this time. I hated Natalie Portman in most of Black Swan. Which directors? Oh, giant robot movie question. I think you kind of nailed it with Brad Bird. I saw Fantastic Mr. Fox in a small mall theater. It was absolutely perfect. It was like a theater that had been there since the mid '80s, and the seats were even from the '80s. And I just sat there and I had a wonderful time. I've seen his last 3 films in the theater. I saw Royal Tenenbaums in the theater when I was a kid, and I fell in love with it. I did read some of your script. I haven't finished it. Very harsh language, Noel. You've been a very bad boy. Hey, you're trying to write like a David Mamet thing with the language. It's very fun. Hey, Pat, I had heard that the Isle of Dogs US wide release was delayed. It was. It was supposed to open in, I think like 1,500, 2,000 theaters, and then they decided to go limited release into 27. I haven't seen Tomb Raider yet, but I plan on seeing it possibly for a review. I tried to watch Grand Budapest in theaters, but the film broke. That's wonderful. Should the next Thor be an anime-like buddy film? I guess. I enjoyed Budapest Hotel, but I felt like I was on the ride, mostly a victim of it. Definitely, I don't think it was as great. I really liked the movie. And it's about Europe post the war and this melancholy, and it's got a really dark ending, and it's about storytelling, and it takes a lot from literature I like and all that. But my favorite Wes Anderson film is still The Royal Tenenbaums. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. I saw it in the theater and I fell in love with it. I've loved it ever since. It's John Irving-esque. It's like reading a great novel. Owen Wilson co-wrote the screenplay. They got the Oscar nomination for it. I think career best performances from Ben Stiller and Luke Wilson. I think it's one of Gene Hackman's great performances. I think everyone's terrific, but I think there's some career highlights in this movie. And it's a movie with multiple stories and multiple things. There's not much of a plot. Really, there's not much of a, but the characters are so well defined, you never forget them and you don't want to leave them. And The Royal Tenenbaums is a film that I've seen at least 40, 50 times, and I've never grown tired of it after all these years. Vikander is great, but Tomb Raider is kind of tropey, like I've seen it before. Yeah, Tenenbaums is a little masterpiece. Bottle Rocket, great. Rushmore, great. Kind of like a graduate of the 90s. Life Aquatic, didn't like it initially. Thought it was kind of mixed on it. Like a lot of people. Did like it, though. Now I love The Life Aquatic. I think Owen Wilson might give his best performance in that movie. Limited's really good, but I know Blood Money's not big on Moonrise Kingdom, but I think the second half's actually one of Wes Anderson's best movies. Absolutely adore that movie, actually. I'm one of those Moonrise Kingdom hipster fags who loves it. 1.5 million in 27 theaters. That's great. That is an average of 58,000. Now, for a stop motion film, which is really didn't do well, Fantastic Mr. Fox was pretty much a bomb. This was for Wes had his big comeback. It made 21 million domestic, 46 million worldwide, $40 million budget. So, and I believe this film cost 35, $40 million as well. So it's going to have to make a lot worldwide, but perhaps with the Japanese element and the dog element, perhaps it could make $100 million. I know Wes Anderson's been accused of cultural appropriation with this film, which I think is hilarious. But I've read a lot of that reviews. But it is overall a very well-reviewed film, and that's a good start. Hopefully it can hold. I don't know how audiences will respond to it. Outside of a couple of Henry Selick films, Grease is the second highest grossing musical domestically. Yeah, no, Grease... Yeah, didn't Grease make like 180 million, 180 something million? He makes characters more than stories, and yeah, he does. I agree. It's more character driven than story driven Wes Anderson films, but I don't dislike that. But that's kind of what's one of the great things about Grand Budapest Hotel is that it does actually have kind of a story and a payoff to it and where it goes that's really nice. It does sound I Love Dogs. Yeah, that's why I think that's the whole play on it. I Love Dogs. I want to see it too. They're gonna go wide with it though. No, I mean it's in limited release, but they do plan on releasing it. He's a Texas boy like me too. I feel a very deep connection with Wes Anderson and the Wilson brothers, Richard Linklater. A lot of those people I feel very I know I don't think Mike Judge is from Texas, but his capturing of the South and the way he talks, especially his show Tales from the Tour Bus and not too shabby. Red Sparrow. Can we just call this a bomb now? 50% drop. I was kind of struggling with that, but I guess we got to say bomb. $69 million budget. You got to think marketing. They paid Jennifer Lawrence $15 million for this. Didn't they pay her $10 million for Mother? So she got paid $10 million for Mother, which was a bomb. Got no Oscar noms. This film's a bomb, and she got 15. So she's made $25 million, and the studio's made pretty much nothing. And both films have been disappointments critically and financially. $69 million budget, $44 million domestic, $120 million worldwide. I just got to think with marketing and all that, this hasn't made any profit. So I like Francis Lawrence. I think he's a decent filmmaker. I think he's a little underrated by some people. But overall, this was not a good play. I don't think this was a good idea. A lot of people thought this was going to be a big hit. I remember there was one point predictions for this movie was that it was going to have a big opening weekend. It's kind of like Atomic Blonde. I'm like, you guys are way overthinking that these like spy movies are going to be these huge hits. It's really not that big of a genre anymore. I mean, The Americans is a terrific show. It's one of the best shows on television. It's one of the best shows maybe ever. It's great. It's been on 6 seasons. The new season's starting. It's a great drama. It's a great spy thriller. It's one of the most critically acclaimed shows on TV, and it's one of the ones known for running, but it doesn't have near the fame of like a Homeland, a Breaking Bad, even when The Walking Dead was big. But a lot of these other shows, Game of Thrones, their ratings all went up and peaked at some point. The Americans still isn't that popular of a show. The ratings still aren't that great. Not many people watch it, and I just think it's because it's that spy thing, and it's a very complicated show, or like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. But I would recommend the Americans. It's a very good show, especially the guy who plays like the husband in that. He's amazing. What an underrated performance. He's been great in that for like 6 years and been killing it. At the famous scene, yeah, you can respect Jesus, but not us. You can respect Jesus, but not us. I love it. He rips pages out of the damn Bible. He's like, F you. You don't love your father in this house. You don't respect me, but you're going to respect Jesus. If you don't know what The Americans is, though, it's an FX show where a spy couple, they're both Russians who were undercover as Americans in the 1980s. They live next door to their an FBI agent, actually. And there's actually a great video on that show about identity, how the show's about the identity and knowing who you are and the complicated, complex, how complicated we are as human beings not knowing who we are. Because knowing who you are yourself is actually just as difficult as knowing who anyone else is, knowing what people actually think and do. Because we're never going to know. We just have to assume things and trust what people say. Even with ourselves, that we lie to ourselves so much. And that show's really about that, looking in the mirror and trying to recognize yourself, the things you want, but seeing who you really are. Great, very complex show though. Lots of layers to it, lots going on. But I would highly recommend The Americans. The first couple seasons is really great too. The first 2 or 3 seasons is really great. Anybody think when the skateboarder was beaten in AB with 99 Red Balloons playing fun? Oh, American Beauty. I got into in UNC at CSA. Sorry. Do you know what school that is? I believe so. But I think I can't think of the full name. Yeah, but I believe I know that school. I'm not is it good? Are you having a good time? Did you have good grades, Noel? Did you have that good GPA? My GPA was a 3.7, which wasn't a bad average. I never was a 4.0. But I was 3.7, so that wasn't bad. But did you get it? Is it a good school? Do they give you nice equipment? Do they let you use good equipment? Because that's really the only benefit I could see to a good film school, is that you'd be able to use better cameras and lighting equipment and editing equipment, so you can learn how to use that stuff more instead of going out of pocket and buying your own stuff. They would actually, if you had the ability to use something like an Alexa, that would be something nice to learn with. That way you'd be prepped for it if you'd work on a bigger production or a commercial, if because if you don't get to work with that stuff, you have to spend a lot of time doing research and reading and all that instead of working hands-on with it, which is different. Some people are more researcher. Some people learn more by applying it. They work with their hands well. They're more like a mechanic with it. They can just kind of get something and make it work. They can play with those toys. Other people need to really read and figure it out. I'm going there this fall. They have dollies, full sets, and yes, they do have red Alexas. Well, that's great, man. That's really what you need, because really you gotta learn how to work with those. I mean, that's what most things are being shot on, especially the Alexa Mini. That is if you look at every Best Picture nominee, almost all of them were shot on an Alexa. I think like 6 out of the Best Picture nominees were shot. So you really have to learn to work with those, and yeah, the red epics too. But because it looks good. I mean, it looks good. The Alexa just looks terrific. It's one of the best looking things out there. But it's very expensive, and a lot of people can't afford that for their own independent films or whatnot. And so a good benefit to film school is you get to use the camera and have fun with it, but you're not spending as much money. You're still paying for college, but that renting that camera would be a lot of money. So that I would say, yeah, try to get as knowledgeable on that as you can, though, man. You really because that'll help you out if you know what you're doing, if you know your lenses, and you know how to deal with the lighting, and just how all the intricacies work of it. I mean, the Alexa does a lot of the work for you. Don't get me wrong. You can kind of lean on good digital that way. It's not as difficult as lighting a lot of other things. Certainly not as difficult as lighting film stock, but I still think you got to kind of learn it. But it seems like a lot of people are learning it. And it's just the color it gets is absolutely wonderful. I love what you can do with color with the Alexa. It really, I believe Blade Runner was shot on that too, 2049, and it really just and Deakins shot Skyfall as well, and Drive. But Drive is the first time I really remember being like, man, this looks good. The best film school I could find in budget, it's more of conservatory. Oh, so it's like a tech school kind of in a way, like you're gonna be learning things like that. It's not just you sitting there film theory and writing essays and analysis and going through film history. Because a lot of that stuff, yeah, you could just buy books or research it online or go and. I mean, God, I'm reading 4 different books right now, and they're all about actors and directors in different eras of film. Hey, Pat, can you wish my mom a happy birthday? Her name's Lucy. Yes, happy birthday, Lucy. I hope you're having a great day. My birthday's actually in 3 days, so we're pretty close. So that's pretty cool. Are you Lucy Liu, the once famous great Asian actress whose career is oddly just went away? But in 3 days, I will be turning a little older. So it's making films hands-on and focusing on storytelling. Well, okay, man, that's a good thing. You should focus on storytelling, because if you learn to become a storyteller, you can all the other stuff kind of falls into place, I think, a lot easier. or because otherwise you're going to end up just being a second unit director. And if there's anything that you probably need to try to extend a little bit more, Noel, is your storytelling ability, because from all your stuff I've seen, you're kind of leaning, you come off to me like a guy who might end up being a second unit director or a camera operator, who shoots some action scenes or fights things. So you need to, if you really want to be a filmmaker storyteller, I think you need to start focusing on more of stories, like structure and character development, subtext, themes, going back and forth between these things, because a lot of your stuff doesn't have dialogue and story as much as it. And I get why you don't do that, but I think you should try to work on that stuff just as much as you work on making cool looking visuals and nice fight scenes. I think you need to work on having great dialogue exchanges and making your actors do more than one or two takes, actually crafting the people's kind of performance a little bit better. And I'm not trying to be critical, but I think you need to focus a little bit on, the just stories, just learning how to have 3 acts, and that's good. If it's all dialogue, that's good. Yeah, try to make something that's in one room with people talking, entertaining, and good. And if you can pull that off, if you can 12 Angry Men something, that's much more of an achievement than making something that's like a cool action scene. In a lot of ways, it's much more difficult because you have nothing to cut to. It's just people in a room talking. If you can make that engaging and make the reveals through dialogue, if you can make the language powerful, if language can be cinematic, and it can be, very much so. I mean, think about Reservoir Dogs. That's a film. People don't realize how much restraint Tarantino used to have in his early career. That's why I don't like his later work as much. It's exploitation. It's grindhouse. It's him leaning on genre stuff. He used to have restraint. Reservoir Dogs really doesn't have a lot of violence. It has a few scenes, and it's got a lot of swearing in it. But for the most part, it's restraint in every way. He doesn't fetishize the violence, he doesn't glorify it, and it's a lot of language. It's what people are talking about that's the most interesting, and each character is telling multiple things about themselves when they talk, and also we're getting more of what's going on in general through that. But I think that's just as essential as learning anything else, is learning how to make people talking and making a room feel huge, learning how to use space. Tarantino studied De Palma for that, so if you want to try to use space a lot more, get into De Palma. I'm not overpraising Hot Fuzz, because I love Hot Fuzz. I think Hot Fuzz is one of the best movies of the last 20 years, so I get what you mean. Like, YouTube critics all put it on this pedestal and act like it's the modern Monty Python, but I still think Hot Fuzz is amazing. It's a little long. It's a little over long, maybe. It could probably cut 15 minutes. Yet Tarantino used to be, he was very restrained. Pulp Fiction's completely restrained. Think about how subtle scenes are in Pulp Fiction. I mean, people think about it as this big epic film with these grand scenes, but a lot of it's just people sitting down, talking at a table. They're in a room together. There's some cinematic moments. Jack Rabbit Slims, obviously, in the Gimp scene, but really he keeps it tight. He keeps it intimate, and that's really the it's that staginess that's really great. But unfortunately, as Tarantino got bigger budgets, and especially when he got into Kill Bill and all that, I think he kind of lost that. It does show up in glimpses in his work, obviously. Obviously, when it shows up. Thanks for the advice, Bat. I kind of hate fight scenes now. I retired them 2 months ago. It kind of shows up in the opening scene to Inglourious Basterds and the tavern sequence. There's moments where it feels like classic Tarantino, and but Hateful Eight was the closest to recapturing that. But you shouldn't retire, dude. You're really good at fight scenes. I just think that you can tell story through action. You can learn to become a storyteller and use action scenes. They can build off of each other. It can be just like John Woo. You can make the fighting, how the character express. AJ has that ability. AJ as a charismatic guy and as a performer can get a character across through action. But if everyone else around him could be having good dialogue and things going on, and there's actually a plot that has nice little reveals, and the audience is going on a journey, and they're not fully aware of what's happening, but once they get the information, they go, that's exactly what it should be. They shouldn't know what's happening, but when what happens, they should be satisfied that was the decision you made. Peter Rabbit, James Corden, 106 million, 183 million dollars worldwide, $50 million budget. Not doing bad. Will Gluck, that's the Easy A guy. Let's talk about Unsane. Steven Soderbergh, one of my favorite directors. He was retired for a while there, even though he worked in television, and now he's come back. His film before this was Logan Lucky, which, despite being very critically acclaimed, 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, had a pretty bad marketing campaign. He released it himself, 3,000 theaters. Domestically, this was just a disaster. Really good movie. Really solid flick. Actually, one of my favorite films of 2017, really. I don't know if it's top 10, but it's definitely like top 20 material. Adam Driver's great in that film. Before he retired, just like 5 years ago, he made this film, Side Effects, which is basically Gone Girl, before Gone Girl even came out, even though the book existed. This Hitchcockian thriller starring the great Jude Law and his best performance in modern day, and written by Scott Z. Burns, who's actually the guy who actually wrote Contagion, which I don't love, but I do like The Informant. But his script to Side Effects is awesome. This is a great movie that only has one glaring flaw, is in the first few minutes they reveal a major scene, and it's kind of a spoiler, and you're waiting for this moment. That needs to be taken out. If you take that out, I would say this is one of the best psychological thrillers of the last decade. It's one of Soderbergh's best films. This is legitimately one of his best films, and he has a great filmography. Before he retired, this was a great little gem. I think this film deserves some more love at the Academy, and I still think it's underrated. It's really solid, man. Really solid. Haywire, absolutely terrific the way the action scenes are shot. He just lets the camera linger. $23 million budget. There's that great sequence in this where it just goes to black and white, starring Gina Carano. Absolutely terrific. Didn't do that great, but awesome. Magic Mike I actually liked quite a bit. Particularly, I like Matthew McConaughey in that movie. I don't really like the third act, but the first two acts are really solid. Contagion I'm mixed on. Everything Going is fine. And The Informant's actually pretty great. Definitely hate Shay, Girlfriend Experience. Ocean's 13's fun. The Good German's bad. Ocean's 12 is horrible. Solaris is okay. Ocean's 11, really good. Traffic, was just thinking about that the other day. You know, Traffic is such a melodramatic, messy film that would feel like a total mess, because really it was right there at that moment before Inarritu was coming out with his films, where you have the interconnecting stories, which went back to previous decades, but this fad was coming out, and it's there in Traffic. You see that fad starting with Soderbergh, who's meeting his promise that he's setting up. It's the closest film to me that goes back to his work in Sex, Lies, and Videotape, his terrific debut. Even though I think Out of Sight's probably his best movie, The Limey, those are both incredible. King of the Hill, actually, no, my favorite Soderbergh film's King of the Hill. It's also his most underrated. Playing completely out of genre, you would think he would be in a coming-of-age film, a Jewish story. It's based off a very acclaimed, very well-known book. Cliff Martinez did the music. This is one of my favorite coming-of-age films ever made. I think this is a masterpiece, and I couldn't recommend it more. But what a prolific filmmaker. But liked a lot of his work, but there is something with Traffic kicking off that multi-connected story thing, and but what he did that was so genius in that I think made it not necessarily one of the greatest films ever, but I think a minor masterpiece of American cinema is the color grading choice and visual aesthetic choice. That he decided to do the handheld camera work with the Mexico scenes, that he did the blue stripped look, and it's funny because he does that digital thing. It's hard to find the 35mm print. It's hard to watch with this Traffic, and that was the first film he became his own cinematographer on. He got 2 directing noms that year for that, and Aaron Brockovich, and he won. Probably should have won Best Picture over Gladiator or Almost Famous. King of the Hill's incredible. But the thing about Traffic is he had the 3 different. So there's Game of Thrones ended up doing this. So when you jump around to different places, when you go to King's Landing, when you go to where Daenerys is at, when you go up north, they're using a different color filter. So he has that blue and then that yellow clean look with the Zeta Jones storyline, the Don Cheadle stuff, and then the handheld scenes in Mexico. Each one has a different mood. Each one has a different feel. So even though he's jumping around to 3 stories that are kind of interconnecting, you know where you're at it's coherent because of how he chooses to shoot it visually, which also ties into the themes. Each color represents the emotional state of things, which isn't the first time that's been done in a movie. Obviously, that had been done before, but he did it at a very high level with a studio budget. That was his breakout into a full-on studio film, possibly, you could say, out of sight. And even though I think Traffic was a bit overpraised and hasn't totally held up, it's not the great film maybe it was stated to be. I think it's a minor masterwork because he chose to shoot it the way he did. And the way he found that cohesiveness to the complexity of the drug war, the war on drugs. The Michael Douglas plot is a little lacking in nuance. It's a little melodramatic and too cliche in Hollywood. The Benicio del Toro scenes, though, are amazing, and I think have held up over the years. But for Soderbergh, he had Logan Lucky. Now he did Unsane, which looks terrific. I love the look of this movie. It has 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. He hasn't had a film get bad reviews in like a decade. Like his last 6 or 7 films all have gotten really good reviews. 3.8 million. I don't think this film had a big budget. I think it only cost $1 million. I believe this is going to be on Hulu or something. But I really want to see this film a lot. I was just seeing the trailer to this over the weekend. And it looks terrific. Midnight Sun, 4.1 million. Don't know much about this. That's not a terrible opening weekend, I guess, for a film that's not that discussed. Game Night, 4.1 million. $60 million domestically, $94 million worldwide. That should pass $100 million. Not bad for a $37 million film. Paul, Apostle of Christ. $5 million opening weekend, $5 million budget. Caviezel, man, Jesus is in this? Jesus is back, people. He is back. It's a sequel. It's the Oh wait, isn't Mel Gibson talking about making a Passion too? That's great. Truth is, I do not feel like working on my story anymore. With things I have experienced in my life, I do feel like it, and if I do, I would be a hypocrite. Denis Villeneuve, Dune could be something really good. I hope so. I didn't know Soderbergh. Yeah, Soderbergh's going to go back to where he's making a movie of every year, I feel like. That guy's a machine. I kind of hate that piss yellow color filter he uses for everything, but he's a great... I can't deny him. He's a great director. I mean, he's one of the smartest guys out there. He's one of the best American directors, too. And he's such an important part of the independent film scene. And James Spader's performance in Sex, Lies, and Videotape is so great. No, I did not see your question. I'm sorry. I did miss that. I'm sorry to say. Hey, Pat, I just have gotten South Park Stick of Truth, and for some reason it somehow reminds me of... It's very much like Paper Mario and Mario RPGs. So you could tell the battle system's very much based off that, so that's why you feel that way. Love, Simon, which had a great opening weekend for the marketing and all that. 11 million, 23 million now, $17 million budget. Very critically acclaimed film from Greg Berlanti, who had made Life as We Know It, The Broken Hearts Club. Remember Life as We Know It, that Katherine Heigl film? But this is a gay John Hughes-esque movie. Doing well. Wrinkle in Time, 50% drop. Maybe won't make 100 million like I said last weekend, even though it had a good second weekend. That's not a great... And that foreign total is abysmal. Is this thing not opened anywhere yet? So $73 million domestic, $14 million foreign. This is a $103 million film, $50 million marketing campaign. So they haven't made any profit yet, and I don't think they will. I don't even know if that'll make $150 million worldwide. It's tough to tell right now. Does anyone know? Has that been released internationally yet, Wrinkle in Time? I know that book's really not popular. I'll say this about Prisoners and Arrival. I think they're films that have great first acts, and they kind of just don't really pull it off in the third, but I think the setup of both of those movies, the first 45 minutes of Arrival is pretty damn good. Yeah, Sex, Lies, and Videotape is so mature and realized and wise and controlled for a guy that was like 26 or something, because it's still one of the best films about human sexuality and the fear of actually being as freaky as we actually are. How weird we actually are, all deep down, the dark things that we hold within, especially about who we are as human beings, that fighting our nature. It's really the nature versus nurture argument with a lot of that movie, and women, female sexuality. I mean, that's the thing. That film's one of the most fascinating depictions of what women feel. And the fact Soderbergh understood that is just incredible. It feels like a movie that a director would have made in his 40s or 50s. It's that mature. It's really well done. Tomb Raider. Pretty big drop this weekend. Overall, not doing bad because of the international box office. 55% drop, which is very steep. $94 million budget. Alicia Vikander. This has mixed reviews. Not terrible reviews. $211 million worldwide. Now, this isn't doing nearly as good as the Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider movie. That film's opening weekend was $47 million in 2003. This film hasn't even reached the opening weekend of that film, and it's been out in 2 weeks. This is not going to make 100 mil domestic, but it could make 250, 300 million worldwide. They are most likely not going to make a lot of profit off this, but they also won't lose money. I think they'll be able to break even-ish down the road, but we're most likely not getting Tomb Raider 2. Bad marketing. Let me just get that out of the way. Tomb Raider could have been a hit. This film had terrible trailers. It looked mediocre. That first trailer was abysmal. The cinematography, the way it was done, they just did a poor job. They didn't sell her as Lara Croft well. They didn't sell the movie well at all. I mean, I would say totally WB bombed on the marketing campaign with that movie. If that film was better marketed, they could have had a better opening weekend. Now, it would have still had big drops, but if they could have made a better, like, because you can make an okay action film like Salt and it'll make money. If it had just been an okay action film, which it kind of is from what I'm reading, maybe a little bit better, maybe play with conventions a little bit, but if you just would have had better marketing, I think this film could have made 100 million. But I can't think of any recent film that had trailers as terrible as Tomb Raider. Wrinkle in Time was pretty bad, but even that had enough of big name stars to open over 30 million. Tomb Raider had nothing going for it except the name of the franchise, which it was definitely not where it was at back when the first one came out with Jolie. Sherlock Gnomes. I don't know if this is a follow-up to that Gnome movie. Yes, it is. What was that called? Gnomeo and Juliet. That's right. Which actually did pretty well. That film made $99 million domestic, $193 million worldwide, had a $25 million opening weekend. This only has a $10 million opening weekend with the $60 million budget, so I don't think it's going to make that $99 million or even close. It could make $40, $50 million with good word of mouth and obviously the international box office, but bit of a disappointment compared to the first one, but that Romeo and Juliet's a better title and probably had really just better marketing to appeal than Sherlock Gnomes. That, I don't know, that doesn't seem to hit quite as well for some reason. I Can Only Imagine. This freaking Christian film doing great second weekend. Great hold. 17 million opening weekend, $7 million budget. Second weekend, 19%, $13 million, which is absolutely terrific. Once again, Dennis Quaid shows to be the everyman, the Christian everyman Americana that people love. Dog's Purpose was a big hit. He'll show up in these movies occasionally that do really well. If everyone remembers the movie years ago that he was in, The Rookie, was this great little gem. Very, very cliche baseball movie. You've seen all this stuff before, but man, his performance, $22 million budget, and just ended up doing really well. Kind of became a cult classic. Frequency, terrific little film. Did okay, but like that Dennis Quaid factor, man. Always been a big fan. Oh yeah, he's in Traffic. That's right. But I Can Only Imagine. This is doing really well. Christian cinema does break out because it's a niche audience. It's because there's still a lot of religious people in the world, and I think Hollywood kind of forgets that they don't make a lot of good films. The Exorcist would be an example of a good religious film, but this film's going to make over 50 million at this point. So this is really doing well. I wasn't expecting that, honestly. I guess good job. Black Panther, which has now reached what I said it would. It has now passed the Avengers and become the highest grossing superhero film of all time domestically. Worldwide, that still belongs to the Avengers, obviously. I don't think it'll reach that worldwide total of 1.5 billion, but it doesn't need to. This film will make over 650 million domestic, though. 16.6 million, 37% drop. Black Panther is at 606 million foreign, so it's made 1,237 million worldwide. This film's got a $200 million budget. Let's say $100 million in marketing, promotion, and all that. Let's say they have $320 million in this movie. With a $630 million total there, 1.2. They've already said this film is going to make $500 million in profit. This has already been reported last weekend because it's making money so fast. So this film's going to make $550 something million for the studio. This is insanely successful. I think the Avengers made about 600 million for the studio because it made a little bit more internationally, but still, all things considered, and I don't think anyone's going to be getting that 50 million Robert Downey Jr. payday either. At least in this film. Don't get me wrong. After this film, Ryan Coogler and everyone involved is going to be getting much bigger pay. They're about to shoot up. This blew past Civil War. This is only behind Age of Ultron and the first Avengers. This is only behind the other Avengers films. This could pass Last Jedi worldwide. It did domestically, which is crazy. So this has made more than Last Jedi. The only film that's really done better than it in modern years is The Force Awakens, which did make about 300 million more. But outside of The Force Awakens, this is the most impressive box office run domestically in modern cinema. And it's been number one for several weeks. I've already said enough about this. My review's up on the channel. It's called Blackety Black as Hell. I've talked about this movie for weeks now. There's not much more to add to this. As you know, I don't love this movie. I don't hate it either. I don't really get how all of this happened. It was a perfect storm of release date, media pushing it, the hype, critics. It just, all of that happened at once. 10 years of Marvel leading up to this point. Brand recognition with something new in that brand. It's so many factors that go into this film being a major hit. I'll never quite fully get it being this successful. I would have even got this film making $1 billion. I really would have. But it making so much more than that. It being this film that had a $200 million opening weekend. Like, the fact it didn't struggle to get there. The fact that it ran fast to this total. I mean, it's made it's not even done. 16 million still good money. It's going to keep making money in the coming weeks. It's not done at all. So to everyone at Disney who's already been dominating, all of Hollywood, Buena Vista, this is the end. I mean, Disney owns everything. Mark Zuckerberg owns your soul. Twitter, Google, everything's owned, and Disney is just taking over because even though a lot of other movies are making money, nothing comes close to what they do. One of their films makes so much money, it makes more money than several other films, excluding, like, maybe recently Jumanji 2. Jumanji 2 is the only thing that's really been impressive from anyone else, where you're like, oh, and the Fast and the Furious franchise from Universal, but to have a Jumanji sequel make 401 million, 940 million worldwide is absolutely insane. 3 billboards. Let's just check that real quick before we get to the film of the week. 153 million worldwide. That did really well. I've already checked on Coco. Know its total. There's not, I guess, nothing else to really talk about except the box office Addict film of the week. So let's get to it. That is Pacific Rim Uprising, or as I've called it, Pacific Rim 2. So Pacific Rim, the first film, had a $37 million opening weekend. That was with a $190 million budget. Let's just say 200 to simplify. So $200 million budget, big marketing campaign. That film was marketed for a long time. It got pushed back a little. And then it opened to $37 million, just scratched to $101 million domestic a few years ago. But did well in Asian markets, obviously, giant robots fighting. So ended up making $411 million worldwide. Now, it wasn't a big profit movie, but it did make profit. They didn't lose money, but they just scraped by. So that's why I was confused why they made a sequel. But my thinking was, well, they're not going to spend $200 million on a sequel. If they make a sequel, the budget will probably be somewhere between 70, 80, maybe even 90 million. And then they're just going to rely on it doing well in China and Japan and Korea and all that, and then they'll make their money back that way. What I didn't know is that they actually spent $150 million on this movie, which I find absolutely bonkers and absurd. What the hell were they thinking? What were they thinking? Like, seriously, that's insane. That's way too much money for Pacific Rim 2. I don't know, they just threw money at this. How the hell? I know, wasn't it co-financed by a Chinese company? Kind of like how Tom Cruise got the money for Mission Impossible 5 or 6 or something, 5. But still, that's way too much money. They could have made this movie for 90, 100 million. I just don't get that. I believe this film was made by the guy who writes the Daredevil show. After Drew Goddard left the first few episodes of season 1, I think I think Stephen J. Knight or something like that. I believe he works on the show. But I gotta say this, though. This opening weekend is better than anyone predicted. All of the predictions for this movie was the opening weekend was going to be like 18 to 20 million. Even the early projections were coming out. And tracking was saying 21 million. I think I was even saying there's no way that film's going to open to above 20 million. So to the film's credit, despite it having a $150 million budget, which is huge, it did open a little bit better than I thought. For it, just being John Boyega and a sequel to Pacific Rim, and that film really didn't seem to, catch on even at home video and all that. I know it's made a little bit of money, but and Del Toro not coming back, because I think this could have opened better if Del Toro came back. I could have seen that opening to like 35-40 million. But a $28 million opening weekend, honestly, if you take the budget out of it, if you just look at what this film is and it being a sequel to that movie, that's not a bad opening weekend. That's actually, that shows there was more of an audience out there for this than we thought, and it also shows maybe the marketing translated a little bit more. Now, obviously, they would have preferred a $58 million opening weekend, but I don't think they made this movie to be a hit in America. And Universal worked on it. But I don't know, am I the only one here? Did anyone shocked how well this actually opened? I would have thought this would have opened at like 15 million or something. I really thought this was... it's a bomb domestically still, but if this isn't a co-production with China, then that's too much. They only get 25... Yeah, I think it has to be a co-production with China, isn't it? There's no way Universal just threw 150 million at a sequel to Pacific Rim. That would be insane. I wish to show you some of my work for you to critique if you want. At your convenience, I can send it to you. It's find me on Twitter. Go on Twitter at Vameon, Vameon. That's my Twitter handle, and DM me. That'll be a lot easier. Hey, you got some work for your critique if you want. Oh, sorry, I just read that a minute ago. Yeah, just find me on Twitter, please. But I'm surprised. I'm shocked. It's actually a better opening weekend than I thought. I would have definitely thought this was going to be like straight up bomb. So 28 million, to their credit, once again, not as bad as it could have been. Surprised me. I like being surprised. Now, here's the positive. Already made $122 million foreign. I'm assuming they opened this in some Asian markets. I don't know how many. Can somebody tell me in the chat? I should have done more research on this. It's my bad. Maybe Bathory can help me. That's why I have her as my Ed McMahon. Bathory, do you know if where this has been released internationally? Has this been released only in like China, or has it been released in Russia and all that, or the rest of the world too? Or yeah, people are abandoning both Twitter and Facebook. A lot of these major sites are going down, but I'd really like to know everywhere this is opened. I guess I could look at the weekend international numbers. I think they might have them on here. Yeah, foreign. Yeah, let's look here, actually. My bad. Foreign total, 122 million. Yeah, which country? They don't have the country listed. Just says by country, and then it just says... Oh, alright, well... Hold on, let me see. Maybe this will give us a better list. Nope. Okay, well, damn. Thanks, Box Office Mojo. Get your mojo together. So you read things at Twitter. Problem is, most of my work is in Spanish. Barely have time to bring it in English. But like I said, don't know if I should continue. You shouldn't stop because you're discouraged. If it makes you feel anything, you should keep doing it. If it's something you want to do. Who cares if people watch it or like it or not? If you're happy with it, if you get better at it yourself, you at least have that. And that self-improvement will carry over to the other things in your life. It's worth getting better at things. I will say Boyega acted a lot better in Pacific Rim than in Star Wars. Well, he's actually got some charisma. He's not a bad actor. Just Finn's so thinly written, and just he feels like two different people. Yeah, no, there's a huge difference between the Tomb Raider films for sure. Where the hell is Bathory? So, what are the chances of Pacific Rim and Godzilla crossing over? I would love that. I would love if Pacific Rim crossover with the Godzilla Kong movie. That would be amazing. So, anyway, 122 million foreign. I don't know which markets I'm in. I guess I could do a Google search myself, but I'm being lazy. This is why I have sidekicks. But Blood Money doesn't show up anymore, so I can't get him. Damn it. And Bathory's off doing science or something. I don't know. She's off doing some smart person crap. Okay, there we go. It has made 56 million in China. See, the original reason that I made Bathory a moderator, to some of you to know, is that she took initiative. It was like she was an intern that wanted to show me, because I would ask questions on Sundays. I would bring up things about, I don't know where this opened and that, and I would always have these hanging things that I didn't really read because I didn't have enough time to get them. And then she would always, wonderfully, on Sundays, come and give me that information. She would, after, in the comment section, say, hey, Pat, it's actually like this. And then I would carry that over to the next weekend, some of the information. Even if sometimes she would get something off, get something up, but she would get something wrong occasionally. I like that drive, so Bathory got in because she goes to look for stuff. Pacific Rim has opened in 61 countries. See, that's what I love about Bathory. She gets stuff done for me. She does it so I don't have to. That's what's great. Thank you, Bathory. So Pacific Rim's open, so it did go a little wide. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that information. So it's not just Asian markets. It's opened up in a lot of territories. Pat, I watched 400 Blows from Criterion. Wonderful. I'm glad you saw that movie. I've seen that film 4 or 5 times. Probably 4. I first saw it when I was very young, like 10, and I didn't really know what it was, and I don't really remember that too well. But then I watched it again at like 16 when I was getting into movies. Seriously getting into movies, and then since then, I've watched it, every few years. I'm almost 30 now. I'm 28, but I'll be 30 down the road. But I watch it every. It's not a movie I watch a lot, but I watch it every few years. It's kind of hard. It's like The Bicycle Thieves. I'd like to watch it more frequently, but it's a little too emotional to watch all the time. It's one of those films you kind of need a couple years to get back to go down that journey again. Thank you, Bathory. Thank you for being my Ed McMahon. All right. So there is a silver lining here. This film has made $150 million worldwide already, and that's not bad. Yeah, Bayonetta is a very sexy character. I agree. What a great design. I love that kind of look. I love the glasses and hair like that when the chicks, when they have bangs. Like that. There's a lot of chicks that are like that, but I love that kind of that librarian look, that Sarah Palin look. Kind of like the glasses and the hair up and really nice face structure. Kind of palish skin. I really like that look, and Bayonetta's designed so well with that. But her whole body and legs are amazing too. Don't get me wrong, but they pretty much, she's pretty much my type, even in how they did the face and stuff like that. They did a great job. Yeah, she's got those Chun-Li those legs, man. Don't watch out. You're so helpful. Can I borrow your car? I promise I'll bring it out without many bullet holes. I have to watch 400 Blows again because I was only looking at the bottom of the screen. Yeah, that's kind of something you have to do with foreign movies. You have to watch them initially and get the story. Then once you've seen that, you can watch it again and pay attention to what's going on visually a little bit more. Yeah, I understand that. I've done that. Yeah, that's a good description, Craig. It's sexy and sophisticated. She's like sexually liberated, Bayonetta, and exuberant and doesn't care what people think about her because she's confident in herself and her strength as a woman and as a being, but also that, yeah, a little classy, a little sophisticated, not revealing everything, is really nice. Bayonetta, but yeah, Bayonetta, she's it's pretty awesome. Great game. The second game's amazing. It's absolutely awesome. Love the Bayonetta get into Smash, but all the friends hate her in it. Oh, yeah, that was a big deal. Then Cloud was in Smash 4. They're trying to get Goku in there. I saw they were trying to get Goku in there, which is absolutely terrible. It was absolutely awesome. It's so iconic that when they revealed her for Smash, even people who never played the game knew that it was her when she showed that close-up shot. No, everyone uses that profile picture. Like, I know Bathory, but that's such a popular profile picture on so many forums and websites is her face. It's just like one of those, like how there's a lot of them, but that's one of the common ones. Yeah, that's the thing. Her proportions are great. They're great exaggerations for a video game. I mean, that's what works about it. Thoughts on Jon Favreau? Well, I love Swingers, and I love the first Iron Man, and Elf's a Christmas classic. So I guess I like him, and I like Chef. I don't like Iron Man 2. I was mixed on the Jungle Book, but for the most... Oh, and Zathura's pretty good. So I guess I I like Jon Favreau quite a bit. Wonderful speaker, wonderful talker. He used to have the show Dinner for Five that was terrific. That was kind of like early podcasting in a way. People would just sit around and have conversations. But even now when he talks, he's a wonderful guy to interview and give interviews. He's a little bit hung up on swingers, but will Star Wars characters show up in Kingdom Hearts? Most likely, yes. I would assume so. Yeah, Chef's really good. I really like Chef. But I definitely am, swingers in the first Iron Man are my favorite. But Elf is a classic. I saw Elf at a drive-in a few years ago, double billed with... I saw Elf in the theater originally, but I rewatched it. It's a great little movie. Visually, it's kind of flat. It's kind of got that flat 80s look, but still the script and Will Ferrell's performance and all that is... Yeah, Dinner for Five is a terrific show that I highly recommend. He did direct Iron Man 2, yes. And he had disagreements with Marvel, and that film's very messy, and it's one of the most boring films of the first Iron Man, though, which I did that video on just discussing it, I think is terrific. And it's got a lot of swingers in it. It's got a lot of that 90s Favreau. He also has a great cameo in the second season of The Sopranos. It's really funny. And also, he was in Rudy, I believe, if some of you remember. Anyway, it's in 61 markets, 150 million worldwide. Now, there's no way they've made a profit yet because they're only going to get 25% from China unless this is a co-finance thing, which I believe it is. But if it's not, you only get 25% from China. They're not going to make anything from this movie domestically. This movie's not going to make 150 million. The first film didn't, and it had a better opening weekend. Now, having said that, though, if this film can hold well internationally, if it can continue to perform well in China and do, like, let's say Transformers type money where it could make 200, 300 million there. Well, if this film makes over 100 million in China and then some other markets, you're looking at a film that could make 300 million worldwide. 350, 400 million worldwide. It's definitely possible if it holds in those markets. Now, if it has steep drops, like Black Panther, had a really nice opening weekend in China, but then had a 60% drop. And everyone in China just hated it. Like... It was kind of racist, but how they talked about it. But this movie, this could perform like a Transformers film does in China and do really well. And it could do really well in Japan and make 50 million there, 100 million there. So we can't count this film out. This is a film that could make money. If this film does somehow make 400 million and surpass the original film's worldwide total, really, that would make a good argument for them making it. I just think they spent too much money. It doesn't even look that good for a $150 million film. Like, God, the special effects and everything about it looks crappy. Dante, man. Dante, old school metal. Dante's great, man. Devil May Cry 3. There's that great part where he has the guitar and he's like, rock out! And he just shreds. After you, like, beat a boss, you just shred on the guitar. It's awesome. But definitely the Bayonetta series is the new Devil May Cry, and in many ways has evolved it to another place. Well, the Chinese Wanda Group has acquired pictures and is releasing Pacific Rim 2, so maybe it'll get more than 20. Oh, okay. Okay. So there is a group, because I was wondering about that. I was wondering if it occurred to me, I was like, wait, is China involved? They co-finance this movie, or somebody's involved with this movie. I don't think this is just Universal. I think they thought that, they could make this work in those Asian markets by working it between two studios, really. Dante is kind of bland. He just has he's nice looking aesthetically. I agree that Dante's kind of a flat character. I do like him in 3. Conglomerate. Wanda Group. Was it Wanda or Wanda? I'm assuming it's Wanda. It makes me think of that from Lost. God, what was the name of the in Lost there was that conglomerate, that that had the they had the thing on the island. The hatch was there. I can't remember the name of it. Damn it. They would always find stuff about it on Lost. They would find old videos of it, and then they ended up working for it back in the 70s when they time travel. What was that called? I can't believe I can't think of what that was called. That organization in Lost. Yeah, I know Jon Favreau is making a Star Wars TV series. I think that's the best decision Kathleen Kennedy and Disney has made since they've been doing this. is Jon Favreau. I think he's the best choice they've hired out of anyone. I think that's better than Abrams, Rian Johnson, Colin Trevorrow, even Miller and that. Oh, the first Devil May Cry is a classic, man. The first one's a classic, no question. Devil May Cry 1's like just an awesome game. Oh, okay, so Legendary Pictures, yeah, is owned by Chinese conglomerate. Okay. So they already have interest in that. That's right. The Dharma, yes, Dharma Initiative. Yes, thank you, Dharma. Yes. The Dharma Initiative, yeah. I'm obsessed. I used to be when Lost was on God, I used to always make jokes about that. It's so weird that Lost references don't linger because people basically hated the ending and the show didn't hold up. But back in the day, you used to go to people and they'd be like, man, the Dharma Initiative. Hey, man, the Hatch. Hey, man, the Smoke Monster. Those used to be pulp culture things. Like, everyone talked about them and referred to them. And you don't hear anyone bring them up anymore. I would say that shows that show didn't really... Because you have to watch that show, the continuity of it, but a lot of people say, it doesn't have a good payoff. So people don't visit Lost now again. They don't find it again, discover it again. So a lot of those things... Those were fun things to talk about, Mr. Echo, because that actor's name is impossible to say. Yeah, Dharma. Yeah, the Dharma and Greg Initiative. Hey, Pat, remember the Devil May Cry reboot DMC from 2012 that seemed like it was trying to be pretentious V for Vendetta? Yeah, I hated the new design, but that game wasn't so bad. Oh, you watched Amadeus. Great. Awesome. I love that scene where Salieri has an orgasm while he's looking at the music. It's wonderful. One of my favorite movies. It's one of the great films about art and the artist and discussing art. Salieri's descriptions of music and Mozart's work is some of the best writing on someone describing understanding art, having good taste, and knowing when something is great, even if other people can't quite appreciate it. Knowing what's good, and that pain of knowing that you can't create what's as good as that's accepting mediocrity, and that being almost more painful than anything else. When you just don't have it. It's God, there's so many things. I got to make a video on Amadeus. Dharma, what? Yeah, she did. Yeah, she was a nice looking lady. Dharma from Dharma and Greg. She had that nice, like, kind of tall, volleyball, beachy summer kind of body to her. We don't speak of the Devil May Cry reboot. Not in this house. Not in this house, bitches. So, 150 million worldwide. This film could make 400 million, if not more, if it holds well. We'll have to wait and see. Del Toro worked on the screenplay with Zach Penn. Zach Penn's been getting so much work, and he's such a crappy writer. Like, really, Incredible Hulk script. Norton pretty much rewrote that. Whedon rewrote The Avengers. The Last Stand, Elektra. Yet this guy's, yet he's on Ready Player One. He got on the Ready Player... Why does this guy keep getting hired? He's never written anything worth the crap except PCU, which is awesome. I will not criticize. PCU is the... Oh, Jon Favreau. There we go. The Jon Favreau connection. You got Jon Favreau, David Spade in that. I believe Jeremy Piven. Behind Enemy Lines is kind of fun. But yeah, this guy's like a crappy writer, and yet he keeps getting all this work. I guess he's just the story guy, but I just wish he'd quit showing up. I see him seeing that name, Zach Penn, and I'm like, no Zach Penn. But like I said, this film could be successful. So overall, not a bad performance. I talked a lot of crap about them making this movie, and I still think they spent too much money on it. But having said all that, not as bad of an opening as I thought, and it could possibly break even if it does hold. But it also could be a disaster if it drops really big next week. And so we'll have to wait and see on that. Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Yeah, that's pretty much done. Okay. Just making sure. Let's see if I forgot anything here that's worth pointing out or discussing. Let's see. I don't see anything here that I didn't really get to. All right, I guess that's it for the box office part of all this. Let me look at some chat stuff. By the way, Wrinkle has only been released in France, Spain, Russia, and some minor Asian countries. Okay, so it hasn't been released everywhere yet. Okay. Oh, you don't like PCU, man? Oh, man, come on. The movie's so fun. Okay, I was thinking about that. Wrinkle's really bad. It's one of the worst films to come out in the last couple of years, in my opinion. I don't know. Capcom's been was crazy there for a while. According to Wikipedia, Pacific Rim Uprising cost 150 to 170. God, it doesn't look that good. It doesn't. I mean, it's a nice enough looking movie, but it does not look like a $150 million movie. Where the hell did the money go? Like, what the hell? I'm serious. I'm just confused. Did somebody scam them? Is this some like Bernie Madoff stuff? Like some, like, oh, I'm spending 150 million, but really it's 60 million. All right, so let's go to the comment of the week, which this is the funniest comment I've gotten in forever. It made me so happy. I put it on Twitter. I have no ill will towards this person. This is not a negative. I just found this comment hilarious. It's amazing. So, oh, I have a music cue for this. This is great. All right, you guys are going to love it. This is the music cue I'm going to do for the comment of the week, because what ultimately it is about, it's about me disagreeing with someone. But it's okay. It's okay to have different opinions, as we all say. So here's my quick little music cue for the comment of the week. You guys get ready for it. Oh, all your friends hate PCU. Okay. Yeah, because it's a really solid little 90s college movie. Okay, here we go. This is the cue. This would be the music kicks in for the comment of the week.
There ain't no good guy. There ain't no bad guy. There's only you and me, and we just disagree.
All right, that's it. All right. I always want to do like videos like that, just have that cut in. All right, comment of the week. Anyway, if you watch my Black Panther review, I do this thing that I've done in a lot of my videos, which I'm assuming this person doesn't know, is that I make puns or jokes based off the people's name. The first time this really became known was when I did this with the Alien video, which got very popular, my Alien Covenant review, where I did jokes with Michael Fassbender's name, based off what I thought he kind of looked like. There was Michael Transgender, Michael Ass Clencher, Michael Airbender, Michael Transgender, and there was like 4 or 5 of them, and they kind of, in the second half of that Alien review, there's about 10 minutes to the 20-minute mark where I throw in all these spins on Michael Fassbender's name. And I still get messages from people. There's sometimes people go, man, I still think about the Michael Fassbender thing. I still think about how you played with those names. And it is, that's one of my favorite moments in my video, just because it was, the whole review I thought was funny, and it was me trying to deconstruct not just that movie, but Ridley Scott's career and make an argument for him being a very overrated filmmaker, particularly a poor storyteller. Great technical director, but poor at storytelling. And not saying just that this film is bad, but that he's made a lot of bad films, like 1492. Or just to go down the road, honestly, he's made a lot of bad films, and people just blindly, people forget about A Good Year, that Robin Hood movie, all these crappy films that I went to go see in the theater, and just came out like, that is an awful movie. That's Michael Bay levels of crap. But because it's Ridley, we have to give it a pass because he's a genius. Which in some ways he is, no question. But that video was to kind of go against that idea of Ridley Scott being this untouchable genius. But then, as I got into the main thing, it was just, hey, well, I want to add some jokes here instead of just criticism. So that's we came in with the Michael Fassbender names. And I did that with my Black Panther review. Yeah, Michael Assbender, Michael, I want to see some of your guys in there. I'm just thankful that I've never been that invested in Star Wars, because it's been a while since I've seen the level of contempt for your own audience. For sure. You're absolutely right with that, Bathory. That's an astute observation. Astute observation, as we say. Okay, so I called him to Coca-Cola because my review was a little flat. I was a little serious. As someone said in a comment up here, which I don't totally disagree with. Where was it at? It was something about me being boring, because I do find my Black Panther review to kind of lack humor. I find it a little boring. Oh god, this is the crappiest kind of comment. Bro, Star Wars is a franchise. It's a kid's series made to sell toys, video games, and use people for nostalgia. It's crazy to me to nitpick these movies as if they're serious pieces of art instead of the products of capitalism and filmmaking. It's like, we're not nitpicking it. Me criticizing characters and writing and story is not nitpicking. There's not any nitpicking. It's literally going against basic stuff. And no, it's not just movies made for kids. That's stupid. You know how many adults go to see these movies? I'm so sick of this freaking argument. Star Wars, just because George Lucas said that once. Star Wars was not made for kids. Everyone saw Star Wars. My grandparents saw Star Wars. My parents saw Star Wars. All of their friends saw Star Wars. And yes, kids saw Star Wars. I still watch Star Wars now. I still watch Empire Strikes Back now. Is Return of the Jedi kind of a kiddie movie? Parts of it. Other parts, no. What the prequels? I saw them as a teenager. I saw them as when I was young, but also adults were in the theater. These new movies, Force Awakens and Last Jedi would not be making $1.3 billion if kids were just going to see them. People in their 40s are going to see them. People in their 50s are going to see them. This kids crap. Miyazaki made Kiki's Delivery Service. That's a kids film. It's got an incredible script. It's got great. E.T.'s a kids film. It's great. What's this thing about it being a kids film? So it can be crappy. We can't criticize it because it's a kids film. What's that blanket excuse to invalidate any criticism? Oh, well, why do you care so much? Bro, it's Star Wars as a franchise. It's a kids series. No, it's really not. It's a series for everyone. Stop with this kids series stuff. Is so lazy. It's this they don't get why Empire Strikes Back's a great movie. They don't get why the first Star Wars is a great movie and it's not a kid's movie. And they don't get that it's not just some nostalgia goggles things. Those are genuinely great films. Okay, Genndy Tartakovsky's Clone Wars series, which was for kids, is amazing. I still watch it. Great animation. Well done. It's like, what is this bullshit? It's bullshit. But let's see. There was one. Yeah, this one. So boring. Your comments, that is. Yeah, I agree with this. I found my Black Panther review very boring. I didn't think my voice was that great in it, and I was having issues. Yeah, Spirited Away, one of the best films I've ever seen. Completely 10 out of 10. By that logic, criticizing shit like Food Fight or Cool Cat is dumb because it's for kids. Yeah, apparently, if a kid can watch a movie, it's allowed to be bad. I guess if a movie's for a kid, if a kid can watch a movie, it can have a bad screenplay and bad characterization and a lack of logic. That's the theory, I guess. If it's made for a kid to watch it, it's like, okay, people, yeah. How is The Last Jedi a kids movie? That's the thing. I don't really get. It's got some kiddie stuff, but it's not really a kids movie, like at all. It's not really written or directed like a children's film. I don't people say that, and then I'm sitting there watching it. It's like, this isn't a kid's film. It's not like an adult movie, but it's like a PG-13. It's like a young adult movie. It's like for 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds. It's not really for like 5-year-olds. 5-year-olds don't give a crap about Rey. They're not running around with Rey toys and all that. Yeah, no, The Incredibles sucks. It's a kid's movie. Don't nitpick The Incredibles. But anyway, I the only thing I made jokes about was the name of the character, which was the only thing I liked. Because I think it's a very boring 29-minute long video. I'll just say that I'm not a big fan of it. I love that it's called Blackety Black as Hell. I think it's a good review. I think I did a good criticism of the movie, and I think I was very fair to the movie, to its subtext and what was going on. And I think I was very close to Red Letter Media on a lot of it. But I called him to Coca-Cola, to Kanye, to Cuphead, to Chipotle, which I just had Chipotle a couple days ago, and I'm still under the impression that place is very overrated. I don't mind paying $7 for a burrito, and I get that it's organic, and I can get my lettuce and tomatoes on there with my beans and my rice and the chicken steak, what have you, but I feel like I could just make a burrito at home or go to some other burrito place. Like, the quality's not much above eating a Taco Bell quesarito, or it's really not. It's just better for you, and you get hipster cred if you're at the Chipotle. Now, I've eaten at them a dozen or so times, but just the other day I was eating at one, and I'm like, yeah, why don't I just go down to a Five Guys and get a burger? I know, Hearsay, I can't criticize Chipotle. It's the greatest place ever, but I really don't get the hype, man. I really don't. Yes, the animated films from the 1980s. Yeah, it's Labyrinth, the kids' film. It's Dark Crystal. So I did all these puns with this name, but this really upset this person, Jack M. So they are the comment of the week, which is where I look at a comment I find amusing and we kind of talk about. So let's go through it. To Coca-Cola? Really? I respect that movie reviews are inherently subjective, but I stopped watching after that because I didn't respect your opinion anymore. Now, what I love about this is The first one's to Coca-Cola, and I think he's even reading into it even more about like colonization and capitalism. I think he thought I said the to Coca-Cola thing with this almost dark implication that's not there, phrasing. But and also a lot of the stuff that was funny that I wanted to say in my Black Panther review, I pretty much said in my Black Panther video, The Relevant Masterpiece. But that was funny to me, was the opinion anymore thing. That's absolutely, I don't respect your opinion anymore. That's amazing. I love that so much. I want that framed on my wall. I don't respect your opinion anymore. I love how blunt he is about it too. Like, F you. I'm glad he didn't listen on, though. I wanted to say to him, like, well, you missed out on to Cuphead. You missed out on to Kanye. You know, there was other ones, dude. I even had more than that. I had like 12. I only used the ones that I thought was really funny, but I had more. I had more than, but I thought to Cuphead was such a funny one. I wanted to end on that one, but I had to Cincinnati. That was one. To Coco. To Coco was one because they were both Disney movies. That's right. Black Panther did make a lot of money for sure. Jack M. Off. That's true. But anyway, I love that. I don't respect. That's great. Thank you for leaving that. It's a trashy joke to make about a culturally significant film. So it's trashy to say to Coca-Cola, because I guess I'm insulting his name T'Challa, which I said his name several times in the review. I didn't just use joke names. I said his actual name several times. But I'm apparently not allowed to make jokes about a culturally significant film. Now, you should be able to make a joke about anything. You should be able to make Holocaust jokes. You should be able to make jokes about slavery. You should be able to make a joke about anything that's ever happened that's bad. That's just how it is. Freedom of speech. Humor is a release. It's an observation. It's not done with malice. It's not done to... it's done out of love. I did the puns to just make people laugh because it's a very serious review. If you had listened to my whole review, Jack, you would have heard in the last 5 minutes when I get very serious about the themes of the movie and black identity, which I think is an interesting thing to explore, and how I actually like where the film ends up with Oakland and what T'Challa comes to find about himself and what he needs to do. I like that about the movie. You just avoided that because I put the jokes in there for levity, because a lot of people can't deal with how that's more of a stripped down review. It's one of those more deadpan pat reviews. It's not the enthusiastic, fast talking ones. And so I added the names in there to give some humor so people could, have some jokes. And the comments were there's a lot of people left comments saying, "Oh, I love the Cuphead, the Kanye stuff." So it's just to give some levity to the video so it's not so serious or comes off too clinical. It comes off because I feel like the review kind of is hindered by the fact it comes off a little too it comes off too clinical. It comes off too, it's a little cold in its approach. Yeah, but also I won't even go into the idea that it's a culturally significant film. That's just whatever. If he feels that way, that's fine. I didn't enjoy the first act personally, which is what I criticized heavily, the first act of the movie. But while I believe it picked up considerable steam and became very good, the true success of it was as its inspiration, as a depiction of Pan-Africanism, and as a critique of colonist views of history. Any critique it had of colonist views of history were completely invalid and not profound or historically reasonable. They're really not valid criticisms in a lot of ways because there's no evidence to show that Africa in any way, or even black people in general, would be better off without colonization. And in particular, African Americans seem to be exceptionally better off living here and being more successful and having a chance to have capitalism. Or this film even making $630 million worldwide. Go look at those Chinese reviews. We're so not racist that we're so sensitive about race and anything that we think that we're so racist. But really, America is not nearly as racist as the recent narrative would have you, especially the last 2 to 3 years that's really being perpetuated. I'm not saying there's not racism or racist, but it's being way overinflated. And Black Panther is an example of how non-racist America can be and how much we can embrace black icons. But The colonist view of history is the right view of history because the victors write history and decide history, and colonization is part of history. It's not some white privilege perception. It's understanding this is how events played out and that we're in these circumstances. We have geography worked out this way. Horrible things happened, yes, of course. But Black Panther is not a great inspiration. I love its inspiration as a depiction. This stuff's been explored so much more deeply in literature, in theater, in other films. This stuff's been explored wonderfully in so many things that are worth discussing, and even the actual history itself and essays about this and what professors have said. This is like a freshman sociology class, Black Panther, and not even a good one. It's like a community college sociology class. So I don't even want to hear that crap. Black Panther has no absolute knowledge of African history. Best period of Africa's history is the Golden Age of Islam, where Arabs were the main slavers. Is there white history? The inflation of the race narrative is because that is what will sell more, boost ratings in the world. It definitely is the media push anymore, that everyone's racist all of a sudden, that 60% of the country's racist now. Some people are incapable of understanding opinions of others that are different from their own, which is why the Ghostbusters reboot controversy even happened. No, that was just the media trying to say, to pour in character. That's a great one. Touch all ya, because he touched America's hearts. Oh, that's amazing. I love you guys. You guys say some funny... To Mandela effect. And don't get wrong, I don't hate the movie. I do think it's important, and I do think... But that's the stuff I don't find that interesting. I actually think it's commentary on colonization and on white privilege, or on America and how race is viewed. I actually... And our resources. I actually think that's the least interesting stuff. The stuff that I do find to be interesting subtext is the stuff more about how blacks feel towards other blacks, and that disconnect, and that coming to that understanding, and also identity as black males, and Killmonger's character and what he goes through in different places. I find that much more interesting than any of the stuff. And you say, oh, it's because you're a white dude. It's like, no, it's because that stuff was boring and cliche. The other stuff was kind of really unique, and it could have been explored more, because it's honestly, it's more complex, because it's more about the future than this. Everything else is like, you can't change history, but the good stuff that I liked in Black Panther said, we can change our attitude about history and each other. And that's an interesting concept, but it's very undersold by Disney and the factory studio system. To make sarcastic comments about the significance of this film was concerning, which I do in the first minute. You know, I do the joke, we ended racism, people. But turning the name T'Challa into Coca-Cola demonstrates that you have no concern for the genuine social commentary this film makes. I don't care about a social commentary that a superhero film makes, and when it's a social commentary that has been much better explored in other stuff that I've seen. Sure, it's okay for children and perhaps teenagers who aren't exposed to this stuff. I'm not a child. I've seen When We Were Kings. I've seen, which is one of the best documentaries ever made. I've read books about. I'm not somebody who's not been exposed to these things. I'm not, I know a lot of history. I'm not saying that right away. You just know this stuff. It's basic stuff. You don't have to be intelligent. There's nothing intellectually stimulating about the social commentary in Black Panther. That's ridiculous. It's a kid's film. Don't forget, it's a kid's film. But I love that because I made a joke, I don't care. I have no genuine concern. So I have to cater to the film and give it this special treatment. Especially the Coca-Cola thing. I think he really read into that and didn't get that it was just a name. It was just me playing with the name. It doesn't have any meaning. It's just meant to be stupid because it's funny. It's not supposed to be anything layered where I'm using Coca-Cola specifically to talk about this stuff. I'm not calling you a racist. Oh, okay. Thanks. But that's a deeply disparaging joke to make. Well, I don't know. I feel like those were pretty tame jokes. All the jokes I could have made that could have been so screwed up. All the things I could have said that could have been so edgy or tasteless. And I make a few, jokes about his name. Some very arbitrary, honestly, a lot of, and that's somehow a negative way to look at things, or my outlook. I don't respect your opinion anymore. It's not my opinion, it's a joke. A joke I'm making is not an opinion. Are you stupid? Like, Jack, just think about this stuff for like 5 minutes before you comment, because I think if you actually thought about it and tried to rationalize it just a little bit, or use any basic level of pragmatism, having any kind of pragmatic mindset to it, you would find that it's very innocent. And the innocence is something that you're kind of missing with it, and it's this oversensitivity for a film that doesn't deserve you to be this sensitive about it. You shouldn't really care this much about a fictional film. Wakanda's not real, Jack. Wakanda's not real. It's okay. So Sonny came back at Jack M. I love that. You are an idiot, sir. This movie was made for dumbasses. Oh my goodness. Somebody came on Twitter recently and was this crap with me, where they were coming at me for my comments. They were like, what is it here? Yeah, they asked me, do you accept this behavior? Do these people speak for you? Any plans to make Box Office Addict a weekly podcast? It's been a weekly podcast for 36 weeks, Carl. No, but this crap from this person, I don't know what they were going on about. They said, I need a code breaker here. I have no idea what they were saying. It's somebody in the Rose video, a video with 257,000 hits. So of course I don't read all the comments. Then they said, yeah, people who are critical of SJWs and feminists, I really hope this dude doesn't speak for you. This is referring to me. This is another comment about Rose. And then it says here, and I really hope having comments like this linger in his video comment section doesn't imply that @Vammy, and that's my Twitter handle, condones such childishly pathetic takes. And I just wrote quite simply, people could say whatever they want. I don't give a crap what people comment, as long as you don't attack me directly, or you're not attacking someone else. That's the only time I ever block people or take a comment down is when they start to get, like, attacking. And I don't mean, like, arguing. I mean, like, they go too far with it, and you just don't want that. You don't want your subscribers getting attacked. I rarely do that stuff, but I am pro-blocking. But for the most part, I don't even read a lot of the comments. I just let people write what they want. I just read Jack M's comment. I didn't like that, but he has the right to put it up, and you know, it's whatever. But this whole idea, does this speak for you? It's like, no, my comment section doesn't speak for me, and I don't give a shit what anyone says. I don't give a shit what anyone says. They can say what they want. That's not me. They watch a video. It's a video with 250,000 hits. Thousands of people watch that video. So there's multiple people. I don't have control over any of it. Why are you even bringing me into it? It's not even relevant. To Coffee Maker's a great one. If you ever do the Evangelion stream, I would highly come as Act of God is inspired on Evangelion, though I no longer like Evangelion, another one of the reasons. But what's this? Yeah, I have to be the representative for my comment section. But Carl, it's been a weekly podcast, dude. I love you, Carl. I love your name is Carl Roberts. That's a great name. But it's already a weekly podcast. We've already pulled that off, Carl. I'm just thinking of the meme with Rick from Walking Dead. Carl. Why? All right, well, before we go, let's have a word from our sponsor. Here to present our sponsor this week is going to Andy Kaufman. Hello, Andy Kaufman. I thought you were dead, but you're actually alive. It's amazing. Anyway, we're going to bring in Ben Shapiro, who is going to be doing the presenting our sponsor of the week, which, of course, is what we do. I think he's actually presenting a book now, though, and he's going to try to sell the book to you guys. So that's really good, and you're responsible for everyone in this chat. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I dictate what you guys say, apparently. Everything you guys are saying and asking me, I have some kind of control over, I guess. And, oh, no, it's coming. It's coming. Anyway, to come and to talk about our sponsor of the week is my good friend, Ben Shapiro. And I'd like to welcome him on the show. Ben, how you doing? Good, folks. Thank you. Thank you, folks. All right, gang. We're not here to talk about Blue Apron this week, okay, folks? I know we're always talking about Blue Apron, but you all sick and complain about it, and I'm really sick of it. And the idea that you think that I can't talk about other sponsors outside of Blue Apron is pretty ridiculous, because you act like I just get money from Blue Apron exclusively, but if you were smart like me, you would get as much money from several different sources of income, okay? I don't have to actually pay for any of my equipment or pay my staff. It just comes out of my sponsorships. Okay, I have money. I was a lawyer. My wife's a doctor. We do pretty good financially. Okay, all right, gang. And the idea that you think that I'm just trying to sell out, and I say the same thing every week, and I hold up the podcast and I hold up my show and make this regular appeal that you get Blue Apron is really ridiculous, people. Okay, all right. So we're gonna talk about something different this week because I have to satisfy you people because we just live in a ridiculous world, people. Okay, gang. All right. I love when he does some little pauses. He does these little pauses sometimes that are absolutely, oh, don't break character. Anyway, this week we're here to talk about something really great, folks. Okay, we're here to talk about Audible. You should get Audible. It's really great. It's a great system. They have over 100,000 audiobooks on there, and I like reading books very 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 normal. I like having the hardback and I like having just a regular book. Me and my wife, we read together. We really like reading books, but some books I really like audiobooks. I like them when they're read by the author. I like memoirs. I like nonfiction books. I like books with facts. A lot of books a lot of books have facts that are really good, and I like that. So because facts don't care about your feelings, folks. So basically, if you get Audible, you can listen to audiobooks. I'd really recommend Steve Martin's Born Standing Up. It's really good. It's really really good. It's very entertaining. It's a great look at stand-up. Even though I don't agree with his politics, Steve Martin's a really funny guy. Okay? You can listen to Love is a Mixtape by Rob Sheffield. It's really good. I own the book, but it's really good, folks. The book itself's great, but the audiobook's really good. Norm Macdonald's Memoirs. That's really good. Norm Macdonald's conservative. Secretly conservative, folks. Nobody talks about that. So for just a simple payment of $20 a month, you can get Audible, gang. And you can listen to some of your favorite authors read stuff. It's really good. It's really fun. So yeah, it's really affordable. They give you a free audiobook. You just have to enter in a code /Shapiro, okay? /folks, /gang, /conservative, /communism sucks, and you'll get a free download on Audible. That's what I'm gonna give to you guys. Okay, that's all right. So thank you, and I'm gonna get back to RJ, but yeah, socialism doesn't work. Okay, all right. Thank you, Ben. Thank you. I like your sister. Now that I've seen your sister, she's got that. She looks like him, but as a chick, and she has like giant boobs. If anyone's seen a picture of Ben Shapiro's sister, like she talks and looks like him, and she's like got like an E cup or something. She's got massive boobs, very thin, and looks like a female version of him. It's like the sexiest, weirdest thing ever. Like I imagine going on dates with her. It'd be very intimidating. She'd be like, "What are you doing? All right, are you gonna pay for my dinner? Do you think that I can't afford my dinner?" And the idea that you think that you have to pay for my dinner is really ridiculous. Do you know my family? Do you know the Shapiros? Do you know exactly how much money we actually make? Okay? Do you understand this? Yeah, I put the books up on a faster speed because I have to hear them as fast as I read them. So I have to make it a lot faster so it can work better for me. It's very difficult. It's very tough for me to just listen to an audiobook or listen to most things because I have to hear it a lot faster because my brain's processing it too quick. But his sister, like, just imagine sitting at a table with her. She would look sexy. She's like this woman, but she'd be sitting there like, yeah, I'm going to pay for my own meal, all right? And you're not going to pay for any of my meals, all right? I'm not going to let you have that leverage over me. I'm not going to let you have that advantage. You're not going to hold that over my head, okay? This is going to be a more fair system. We're going to balance it out, all right? I'm going to pay for my food. You're going to pay for your food. And if you expect just sex from that, if you expect sex just because you take me out to nice dinner, you don't know the kind of girl I am, okay? One, you're going to have to convert to being Jewish, all right? That's one thing. I'm not marrying someone that's not a Jew. Second, all right, you at least have to have a degree in accounting, a lawyer, or be a doctor. A doctor in anything, really, except English literature. That doesn't count. Oh, okay. You can't be like James Franco, okay? All right? You want to get with me? You want to meet my folks, all right? You want to get in my gang? You want to have some babies with me, okay? Then you got to get yourself together. You got to be at this level, all right? You got to reach level, okay? There's very high expectations in my family. I would give Ben Shapiro's sister a solid 8.5. Yeah, and she's there. She's like, why didn't we just order Blue Apron? Okay? You took me out to this dinner, and you spent like $50, $100 on each one of our meals. This is like a $50 steak, and we could have just got Blue Apron and sat together in the house and watched a movie. We could have watched Showa. Showa's amazing. It's the best movie ever made. It's wonderful. It's 8 hours, and it's absolutely terrific. Have you not seen Showa? That's pretty ridiculous. We should watch it like twice, just so you understand a little bit more. In fact, you should write me an essay about Showa after, and then I might consider sleeping with you. Only if your essay is at a level of an A-, and my score... Ben Shapiro's sister is a Jewish American princess. No, she is like a princess. That's a nice way to look at it. I only eat Blue Apron, my whole family. That's all we do. Dude, aren't you getting tired from talking nonstop? Yes. Box Office Addict is very tiring, yes. I'm glad that somebody finally understands that. I don't think people understand how tiring and it is to talk for like 2 hours, and you can't, because if I don't talk, it's dead air. If I don't talk, it's completely dead air. Like, it's like radio, and I can't cut to a break. I can't be like, hey guys, let's cut to a break, and we'll be right back. I just have to keep going. And so, yes, I do get tired. I lose my voice. I get very thirsty. I get very hungry. I get tired of sitting in the same thing. I'm not complaining. I'm not like, oh God, woe is me. I had to sit here and do this show. But it's basically, you know where you always see stand-up comedians? They're always drinking the water, or at concerts. You're basically putting on a performance. You're talking. And I don't take breaks. I don't like take these like long pauses and stuff. I keep going. So talking for like 2-3 hours, yeah, if you don't get enough water and you're not luckily I drank coffee and I ate some spaghetti before this, and you got to eat before and get yourself some energy, because yeah, I've had some Box Office Addicts that have been like 3 hours, and it's just like, oh my God, I just feel so drained at the end of it, because it's also mentally draining. You have to keep talking and thinking of new things to say and not be boring, while you're straining your voice. You're just like, all right, talk, project, be good, go. But, you know, it's whatever. That's a good point. Yeah, I am getting a little tired. So I guess that's it. We went long anyway. This was a bit early, so I thought I would go a little bit longer than normal, but I think this is a long episode. 2 hours and 15 minutes isn't so bad. Let's wrap it up. So the story of the week, Pacific Rim 2 did better than I thought it was going to do. Black Panther continues to dominate, and everything else is, well, not really worth talking about. Poor Tomb Raider, domestically, falling apart. Anyway, though, if you watch the show, you're probably a box office addict yourself, and I'm not here to help you with your addictions. I'm here to encourage them. I'm like your pusher man. So please join me again next Sunday with more hilarious content, commentary, analysis, and some fun with the chat. Thank you. I love you guys. Always will. And I'm going to try to get that podcast out for you guys. I know I keep talking it. It's that running gag that I promise, and it never happens. But it's just scheduling, people, I promise. It's not wanting to do it. I really want to do it. I'm going to get my Annihilation review out there. I need to start doing some more underrated classics. I'm just dealing with a move right now. There's a lot of stuff going on. But once I get settled in and I get a little groove going, get a couple weeks there, I should make some more videos. The channel's growing. We're right under 8,000 subscribers. We're about to reach it. You guys have all helped with that. So we're getting, next goal is 10,000. And I think we'll be able to get there this summer easily with the right videos. And this show's continued to grow. The average view for a Box Office Addict now is over 1,000. The last several episodes all break 1,000, and some of them have 8,000, 6,000, 10,000. And for a long live stream like this, I can't complain. It's been great, and everyone who tunes into this on a weekly basis is absolutely awesome. And I've stuck with you guys, so I hope you guys stick with me. And if you're new to this journey, well, welcome on board, man. Let's sail away together, man. So I'll give you guys a play out with Sharkfoot Zero Sector Bravo, which is a nice little tune from him. Please subscribe to Sharkfoot_. Does all the music for my videos. Good friend of mine. Also is Kylo Ren in the Kylo Show. Also, Kylo Show episode 3 should be coming very soon. We're currently working on the story to that. Hope you guys like episode 2. And we'll see you next week for episode 37 of Box Office Addict. Holy crap, man. Almost at 40 weeks. Hopefully we can do something special on 40. We're going to have our nice little 40 together. But I'm really excited about getting to 50, but we're still a ways off from that. So, yeah, see you guys, and bye, folks.